Hello friends, and welcome to episode 213. It's a Noclip Crewcast. The whole crew is here. Let's go in order of alphabet. Figure it out for yourselves.
Hello. Oh man.
Nice, he did it. See, the two of you are, that's harder, I feel like.
QRS. It's me, I'm next. Hello, it's
And then
Jeremy.
I'm third. Whoa, it's Jesse.
Well, you were fourth, because I
Oh
spoke
yeah, you
before
started
the
first.
rules
I'm fourth.
came in.
I'm still learning.
Oh, whoa.
See that?
You were
did it.
zero
We're
with.
gamers. We know how to game.
That was like a WarioWare game.
Yeah.
That was like a brain trading game.
Right, it was.
I got
It was
brain
right
aged.
off the bat. We did. Dr. Miyamoto. What the
man.
fuck's his name again? Does that guy exist, or is that
Yes.
not?
Yeah.
I think we went over this before.
Ryuta
Yeah.
Kawashima.
Yes.
He does. He's not. It's
Yeah.
not a.
He's not
it's not
simply a low poly head in your Nintendo DS. He's a real person.
No, or like what I'm thinking about is what's her face? Who's the
Mavis
lady?
Beacon?
Mavis Beacon don't exist. Well, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
the model exists, and I guess the name exists. I don't know. Is there a person called Mavis Beacon?
Do you think she ever gets recognized as Mavis Beacon?
No.
I'm going to say that's never happened ever. in
Yeah,
history.
I'm gonna say that's never happened.
Go out on a limb and say that's never happened.
Yeah, I think she's like a beautiful person, so people just go, "Oh, look, there's a beautiful lady there." And also, it's been like decades, so you probably don't want to be recognized as your younger self at a certain point.
You would need to go to like one of those like forensic experts and be like, can you draw this woman 20 years in the future?
Exactly, yeah. It's like the Lisa Simpson dentist pictures. Do you remember that? Where her teeth are like, if you don't brush your teeth, it'll look like this in 3 years. And then like the fucking 20-year simulation
Grows
is like,
through her face.
there's a bottom tooth coming out of her top of her face. Fucking absolute. That's still burned. That probably did more for me brushing my teeth than just about anything else. I can't figure this out because Ireland was a weird country, but when we used to go to the dentist as a kid, I still go to the dentist, but when I went to the dentist as a kid, it was in this like really dusty old dentist office, and my dentist, she had the fucking worst teeth ever. And I remember like really bad, like it looks like she like, smoked, fucking 22 packs of Benson and Hedges a day and like, never brushed her teeth. And I remember like 10 years later thinking, did she put on some fake teeth to fuck with me?
Were they that bad that they might have been
They
fake?
were. I remember them as being like bad. Maybe teeth was on the mind. I was sort of like, I was in a toothsome place and I was thinking about teeth a lot more. And like when you're with your dentist, you're kind of looking up at their fucking head a lot. You know what I mean? Like they're just kind of there. And she was, was stuffing all that fucking plasticine in my mouth so I could get fucking braces and shit. But I remember saying it to my mom a few years ago, and she was like, "No, I think she just had shit teeth."
Maybe she was like, you know how Dr. House is the best doctor, but he's like an oxycodone
Right.
Like I feel like maybe she was the Dr. House of dentistry. Like she
I
ate
like it.
candy and smoked cigarettes and shit, but she's like, I know exactly what's wrong with your teeth.
Yeah, you don't eat candy. Like I've done the research. Let me tell you, those teeth are gonna fucking rot out of your skull.
Shooting through your face.
Exactly. You want to look like Lisa Simpson. You want to look like me. I also remember and it's appropriate to say this now because this person was probably in her 30s and I was a young child, but I also remember having a crush on her assistant. It was a real sort of Xena warrior princess situation for me as a young boy. I was never that into Lucy Lawless, but what was the ladies, the blonde girl on Xena? Jesse, you're too young for this, don't worry. Yeah.
I've
Did
never
you guys
seen
watch
Xena.
Xena?
No.
Oh, you've never seen Xena?
No.
What the fuck did you watch when you got home from school? If not that, and
Law and Order.
I used to wake up at like 4:30 in the morning to watch shitty cartoons like Moo Mesa. It was a cowboy show.
Shitty?
I've heard about Moo Mesa.
They were all
Yeah.
cows. Or
It's a sequel to Black Mesa.
So I only say Moo Mesa is exactly. It's only shitty in comparison to Street Sharks, which was the superior anthropomorphic animal
so
cartoon.
good.
So
Is that the one with the Street Sharks, or the one with the little cartoon like Ninja Turtle like characters, right? Street Sharks. Have you ever seen?
Yeah, like they sold the action figures. Yeah.
Yeah, is that the one? Is that the one with Vin Diesel doing that? Have you seen that? Yeah,
What?
Frank's seen it. Frank's, of course, you've seen it, Frank.
No idea.
You've seen
Diesel
that video,
Street
right?
Shark? What?
Do an impression of Vin Diesel in his. He's wearing like a black tank top, I think, in the video, and
he's like, you got the hottest two toys from the Sallywood. You got Street Shark here, and you got Omega Shark. Oh yeah, you want to skate here? You gotta fight me here. It's a hot toy. You gotta get it. Like
perfect.
before he was an actor,
Yeah.
he's like wearing a leather vest and his abs are showing. But it was like he was demonstrating at Toy Fair or something like that. And so yeah, it was. You can just look it up. It's Vin Diesel Street Shark toys. It's just him.
Yeah.
Playing with toys and for a marketing video.
It's before Saving Private Ryan. He used to have. Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen the? I feel like I've talked about this recently with somebody. Have you ever seen the short film he made?
No.
So he couldn't get cast because he was like it was like the way he was putting it, at least in interviews I've seen afterwards, is that he wasn't like black enough to get African American roles, and then a lot of them like thought he was like Italian. But because of his accent, because I guess he grow up in Brooklyn or something? I don't know. Is he from New York? I think. But then they were like, "Oh, but you're the wrong skin color for mafia things or whatever." So he was never. I think based on his headshot, maybe was sending him one way, and then his like maybe his tapes or his whatever was sending him another way. So he did it. He made like a short movie about going to castings and not getting the gig because of this. And Steven fucking Spielberg saw that movie and put him in Saving Private Ryan.
That's really cool.
I think that was his first like non-Street Sharks related. You know what I mean? Like his first actual role, which is.
No, I think Steven Spielberg saw the Street Sharks
video.
advertisement and he was like, "Put him in."
I think so too.
You look like the type of guy who will stupidly try and save a French girl and get sniped onto a piano.
Look at that. The leather vest is really what gave it away, I feel like.
I think Spielberg lied and said it was the short film because he was embarrassed that it was actually the Street Shark video.
Like a camera pans over beside Steven Spielberg and he's got like all the Street Sharks up on his like
his whole
mantelpiece.
shelf is like 1,000 Street Shark
All the Street
figures.
Sharks.
Yeah, that's it.
Jurassic Park ones. He only does movies for the merch.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he only did Jurassic Park because the dinosaurs reminded him of the anthropomorphic sharks.
Yeah, he's got exactly. He's got merch for all of his movies. He's got a great girl in the red dress up on the mantelpiece from Schindler's List. He's got. I'm trying to think of other inappropriate. Did he do Amistad? Who did Amistad?
That was Spielberg. I'd say his first breakout film was Jaws about sharks. So it is.
Oh my god! Sorry,
God!
I feel like we have unlocked a secret of the universe right now. This is awesome.
I'm embarrassed it took us that long to make
the Jaws
connection.
Frank, if you didn't say that, the comment we'd have to delete this podcast.
Yeah, that would be a really bad time. Thank you
holy
for that.
shit! That was the Rosetta Stone of the whole thing.
It was. Everything goes back to sharks. Shark Week. It's Donald Trump in president. See, it's all there. It's all connected. Hello, welcome to the podcast. Yes, exactly. Shout out to all of our patrons, of course. There was something I wanted to say to the patrons. Oh, everyone's been grabbing Hades Blu-rays. Thank you so much. I think we've pretty much sold out of the first batch, which is really awesome to see. So thank you all so much for supporting that. If you are a Battle Pass holder, by the way, I did send you DMs. We have sent / are sending the Battle Pass holders free copies of the Hades Blu-ray. So I sent out DMs weeks ago about this. Kind of did it on the QT just to make sure we got everyone's addresses right and stuff, because some people might have address when you're Battle Pass holder. They ask you for your address on Patreon, but then people might put in a fake address or opt out. So we reached out to people. If you're listening to this and you were a Battle Pass holder, and it's not just current ones, it was like the lock off date was like the end of January or whatever, right? And it went back, or whenever we sent the messages out. And we sent them to anyone who was ever a Battle Pass holder the whole way back to 3 years ago, because that's when we were doing Hades as well. So all the American ones have been sent out. The European ones, we had trouble with some of them getting customs problems. So I'm rectifying that this week. So the external, the ones outside of America are taking a little bit longer. Apologies for that. But you should get your copy of Hades Developing Hell on Blu-ray. I'm sticking in some Noclip stickers into the package too, because Fangamer have a Zagreus sticker, which is pretty cool, but I don't have access to those. So, but yeah, thanks to everyone for supporting it and for watching the director's cut, which is very similar to the YouTube cut. Director's cut is a nice way of saying I fixed some shit I hated in it. I changed kind of 2 scenes and I removed all the music we didn't have licenses for. This is the answer to that one. So shout out to all of our Battle Pass holders. It's a me, Ferrario, Penelope Hayes, Senator Armstrong, Eamon Slattery, Harry Flanagan, Juice, Arno, Richard Matheson, Matt Pearson, James Brown, Mark Rojas, Tucker Morgan, David McGarry, Sven Hooster, Pez, Aaron L. White, Ewint Nate, Tim Robinson, Forrest Pruitt, Jonathan Kremen, Eric Hamilton Schneider, Cameron Ladd, Zachary Snader, Alex Goucher. He's the sole Alex now. Our other Alex has had to bow out of Battle Pass because of some cool life stuff. So congratulations, Alex. George Sekotis, Jacob Godserve, Enthogen, which I've been saying wrong, and fucking Jeremy had a backstory for this one last week.
Entheogen, like theology.
Entheogen. See, I was going in a sort of a sci-fi kind of way for it.
It is a very sci-fi sounding word.
Entheogen. But no, of course, you are the actual educated person on this podcast. That's what it was. Tohir Tiliev and Ryson. And also, there's somebody else, but I needed to double check if this was somebody who didn't want their name read out. We get some people who are Battle Pass people, but they're like, don't read out my name because I work as a, I'm a politician.
Witness protection or
Elon Musk is our patron.
No, God.
I killed a guy, just all this sort of stuff. No, I think Nico said it was cool. Didn't say anything about it. So thank you as well to Nico Passateri. That means it's a me, Ferrario, and Nico Passateri start the show out. So there you go. You can't say we hate Italians now, can you?
Were they saying that? Was that what the comments were saying?
It's a well-known thing about Noclip is that
among
we hate
other
Italians.
things. Exactly. Yeah, we hate. There's only
not anymore.
No,
that's why we were skeptical about Vin Diesel at first,
Exactly. Yeah, we wouldn't cast him because we weren't so sure.
Is Diesel from Sicily? You think that last name?
From the south
name?
of Italy.
Yeah.
What's his real fucking name?
What do you mean?
Here we go. How Italian do we think Vin Diesel's real name is? Let me look it up.
I bet it's like it's probably like Vincent Jones or something straight up.
Holy shit, he is the most white person name I've ever heard.
I knew it.
Mark Sinclair.
No.
Oh my God.
Like the Spectrum?
Wait, he's from Alameda?
Oh shit,
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no.
I didn't know. I thought he was from New York. Yeah.
That's why a big part of like Fast and Furious is like it's all about LA. Like that's why even like I don't know if he tweeted.
Hey, he's NorCal, man. He's from fucking Alameda. He's not.
Okay.
He's Tupac. He's not fucking. I'm just listing people who are famous from Oakland. There's not that many. I'm not big. Tom Hanks. There you go. Another Alameda.
Chet Hanks. Well, we're naming people.
I don't think he was born in Alameda.
Let's just say he was.
Yeah. That's an interesting. How would he get cast?
Yeah, right? What do you do with these voice
Jamaican
acting
guy?
characters? I don't know who he voices.
He could be anything. He's
Put him
a
in Shark
fucking
Tale, see what
chameleon,
happens.
baby.
Have you heard his?
Yeah.
Does he do like patois or something? What he has some.
Yeah.
He does an accent.
Yeah.
Where he
No
he
one
had
do
like-
it.
No, I'm not. You're right.
Don't do an impression of his impression.
Frank,
No.
go ahead.
Frank,
We're already
speak a little
throwing you
under
under the
There is
bus.
a video that's like there's a video where he's like hawking his own. He's in a truck in LA probably, and it's like, click the link in my bio if you want to take my acting class and make your next step be the right step. And like it's just like Chet Hanks is like one of the best people to like. I hate the term like hate watch, but it's like all his stuff sucks so much. It's amazing. Like even just look up the music video for White Boy Summer. It's ridiculous. So yeah.
I did not know Mary Kay made a ASMR game, Vin Diesel DMing a game of D&D just for you.
He's really big into D&D, so I
Which
guess
she gave him,
makes
I
sense.
guess. That's crazy. Yeah, he's big WoW guy. I mean, big game. Like, wasn't he involved in the Chronicles of Riddick one?
Oh, cool.
I think. He's a big gamer dude. He had a studio at one stage. I don't know if it's around anymore.
I'm listening to White Boy Summer right now. This kind of goes crazy.
Oh, remember Wheelman?
Oh yeah.
Wheelman. That's a video game starring Vin Diesel. God, we need to interview Vin Diesel. Hopefully you didn't listen to that part right.
Get him on the pod. I don't think we said anything other than praise for Vin Diesel.
I kind of took the piss out of his name, but then I have an incredibly, Irish name. So
That's true, but if you can't laugh at yourself, then
Danny O'Dwyer.
come on our podcast.
That's my leprechaun. Good point. We're going to talk about some games today. We're going to talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance, FlyKnight, Keep Driving, LOK Digital, which is not Legacy of Kain, Jesse has told me. Ninja Gaiden Black 2 as well. Ninja Gaiden 2 Black as well. But before that, two little quick bits of news. Jeremy, what is Battlefield Labs and how have you gained access to it or not?
So Battlefield Labs, I go way back with the Battlefield series. I feel like many people who love Battlefield games, it's sort of an abusive relationship that in tatters at this point. So Battlefield Labs was announced yesterday, and I waited in a virtual line like I was buying tickets to a Kendrick Lamar concert for it. And I'm still not 100% sure what it is. It seems like a bunch of studios are working on all these different elements of the next Battlefield game. The single player at one studio, the multiplayer at DICE, et cetera.
Zombies, another one.
Presumably some other mode somewhere else. And because every Battlefield game that comes out, the community immediately is like, this is dog shit. This isn't what we want. I feel like it's the equivalent of like when you're a kid and your mom is tired from her work day and she comes home and makes you like the driest chicken ever. And you're like, this sucks. And she's had enough and she throws her apron on the table and is like, well, why don't you fucking cook dinner, huh? That's kind of how I feel about Battlefield Labs. Is mom made me come in the kitchen and she's like, oh, you think it's easy? You think you could do this? And I'm like, oh, I guess so. And I'm starting up the stove and making a Battlefield game.
So you reckon what they can do is no matter what the next Battlefield game comes out, they can go back, well, that's what you fucking asked for.
So you want it. This is what you asked for.
You asked for the dinosaur. You asked for the sharks.
It is it is the ultimate plausible deniability of whatever happens. But the more sort of charitable interpretation is that, you know, they have listened to the community and they want to listen to the community further and get some feedback and see what people actually want. And
we hear for you.
Yeah,
we're hearing
exactly
for you.
So I don't really know. I signed up. It says they're going to invite like a few thousand people, but I waited in a virtual line behind about 150,000 of those people.
Oh, no.
So I think it's I don't know. I think unless you can send a very persuasive email to DICE, then I don't know if it's going to happen for me.
I've Vincent Palla's personal email address. You can spam him. Just don't tell him I sent you, okay?
Yeah. I'll be like, listen, I just found this email address on the internet. I Googled you.
Exactly. vsampella at battlefields.net. I don't know. I just made that up. If that's right, apologies to.
Yeah, I'll bleep it. I'll check and bleep it.
Bleep that just in case.
So they also revealed a 10-second teaser trailer of what the next Battlefield will look like, which if I didn't have a Battlefield game made, but I wanted people to get excited about a Battlefield game, that's the type of 10-second teaser I would show. So I feel somewhat torn about this because I'm like, first of all, like sort of, I'm not very much about the like cult of personality or, you know, one leader can drag a game over the finishing line or anything like that. But I do think Vince Zambella has a pretty fantastic track record when it comes to empowering teams to make fun and interesting games, right? Obviously, Medal of Honor, all the best Call of Duty stuff during that first era, all the way up to Modern Warfare, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare on the 360. Obviously, everything at Respawn with Titanfall 1 and Titanfall 2. I mean, Titanfall 1 is, I think, a really interesting, ahead of its time attempt to merge single player multiplayer in an interesting way. Titanfall 2 is top 5 single player first person games ever made, maybe. Like in terms of shooters, just pure shooters. It's like, you know, before Half-Life Alyx came out, it was the best Half-Life game that had come out since Half-Life 2. I think he is it's different now, but I think with his guiding hand, they're probably in a really good position. The fact that teaser just straight up used the Battlefield 3 music, I felt was very telling. That it's like, oh, here's the stuff that, you know, everyone seemed to like, which was just like, you know, running around on the ground, stuff exploding, chaos. The DICE is obviously, you know, a lot of those folks from that series are not at DICE anymore. Obviously, we've talked a bunch about Embark in the past and the finals, which is a lot of those folks and other people are scattered to the wind, and then I'm sure there are a lot of them probably still at DICE in some respect, or maybe went and came back. I don't know, but I'm. It's an interesting way of doing it. Like clearly, there's a. How much, I guess, do you guys think this is? Is it 50-50 PR and QA? Is it 70-30 or what?
Like, are they waving the flag of like, we're listening to the community, and then when the community's wrong, they can be like, yeah, the community wanted us to do the thing that doesn't suck.
Well, they're not going to want to make a game that doesn't sell in any case.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm just wondering at this stage, because like, we talk to developers all the time. I was in a meeting earlier today with a game that's not out yet, and they were talking about doing their closed beta at some stage and saying that, like, yeah, part of this is marketing. It's about getting your super users in first and having them see heard, and also it's about getting feedback from them. It's not just purely that. So what do you reckon? Are you cynical like me, or do you think that this is something? I can see the use in something like this, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know what the split is, 60-40 maybe. I think it's pretty close to 50-50. I think this is good PR. I think it gives them plausible deniability if if it goes in a different direction and it's not a direction that people like. I think it's very easy to be like, well, we're trying our best to follow the community's lead on this one, and we tried something and whatever. And if it goes well, it's obviously like a triumph for them as we built something with the community, and that looks great. But also, like, I've been doing a bunch of research about some of the early MMOs recently, and there was one in particular that I won't mention because it's a spoiler of a doc we're working on, but worked very closely with their beta testers, and basically at the last minute when the game had to come out sort of faster than they anticipated, they like literally got in touch with all of the beta testers and had calls with them and were like, the game is in the state that you are playing it right now, and we have to ship it, and that's not ideal. We want your honest feedback on like emergency triage. What is the one thing, gun to your head, that needs to be fixed right now?
That's amazing.
And I think especially with online multiplayer games, you could have the entire, like, when studios make games like these, they have internal tests. Like, we've talked to a million studios that do this. They have like Thursday night is like game night, and everyone hops on and has beers and play it. But there is a level of perspective that you can only get if you haven't worked on this project. And we've talked to a million developers who say that the people who play their games often have types of insights that they never could into the inner workings of these games because they didn't work on them. So yeah, I think that this is like, I'd be hesitant to say it's pure PR, because I think it could be a really good positive thing for Battlefield, and it's a series that has kind of lost its identity. And for me, Battlefield was always about these like micro emergent narrative moments, and it was the sandbox alternative to Call of Duty. It was a bigger, more open version where you had these little sort of anecdotes pop up where it's like, me and my buddy were like pinned down, and like he was a medic, he kept reviving me. And then I feel like Battlefield became more about like, oh, it's about like the spectacle, it's about Levolution, and it was never about Levolution.
I like when they evolve.
Yeah, I like Levolving. I love that game Levolve by Turtle Rock.
Oh my God, yeah. Another blast in the past. I'm trying to look up when EA bought DICE. 2006. So that would have been pre-Battlefield 3. Would have been after Battlefield 2. If I'm hearing that right. I think Battlefield 2 was 2005. I could be wrong. 2004, 2005. I was still in college, so yeah, maybe. I feel like the Battlefield series has suffered because EA bought it and wanted it to be their Call of Duty, their sort of tentpole money-making thing. And like, I think we've done one doc over the years on an EA studio, and we've not done it on lots of them for reasons over the years. But when you talk to publishers, and I don't think this is a slight on EA or people who work there, but like there are some publishers and some for I guess like even VC, like there's lots of people who are investing in games and trying to make money off of games, and some of them are more driven by the art of it than others. And one thing that I've heard over the years a lot about certain ones, including EA, is that they are more monetarily driven than most of them. And when you have a franchise like Battlefield and they're essentially trying to go toe to toe and like knock Call of Duty off the top spot, which is essentially what they're doing, and the type of sort of the thing that I think is super unpopular with a lot of gamers, which is this big bet development where you're really going all in, spending a lot of money, hundreds of millions or high tens of millions in an attempt to make the next big thing. And it's the type of thing that with publicly traded companies is very popular because that's what you're trying to do and get market share and really, make a bunch of value for your investors and stuff like that. And I think that Battlefield has obviously just become sort of the tip of the spear of that when it comes to EA's shooter stuff, which sucks. Which means that over the years they've had these games that have felt Battlefieldy, but are clearly doing things and having design decisions imposed on them, or just that's how the design leadership wants to do it, which are attempting to make this big recoup, right? Which you, at a certain point, you kind of can't do, or it's just too hard a thing, or you're just pissing off everyone. You're not reaching that mainstream audience as much, and you're really pissing off your diehards. So in a way, I feel like there are fewer games that have really damaged the relationship with the kind of core players than Battlefield has in particular. So yeah, I see it from both sides. So I think if you're going to hit reset on a franchise, I'd probably listen to the community first before going in the direction of one creative director at this stage, especially right now, because fucking games are weird right now. Like, first-person shooters are weird right now. People who play Call of Duty play it for the same reason I think that people watch Friends. Like, it's become comfort food gaming. Like, it's not the same as it was before.
To your point about like rebooting and recouping the franchise and like making it this big spectacle, I think they need to go against that intuition to make good on what Battlefield should be, which is that like Call of Duty has veered so far in this sort of like bombastic, like you can Snoop Dogg's and it did like Doja Cat and like Mountain Dew, and you get the Mountain Dew and you put the code in, you get the gold gun. And I feel like
Frank's nodding. Keep going.
There's nothing wrong with any of that.
Little Caesars crossover. Let's go.
You get a Little Caesars pizza.
Yes.
You come home, put your little greasy hands on your controller. But I think what Battlefield needs to do is I think they need to basically be like the antithesis of that. And I think they need to do. It will be a very unsexy marketing thing, because the things that make for good marketing are like Levolution and like, whoa, this whole thing, I can't believe the whole tower crumbles when you shoot it with a rocket launcher. Like that's good for a trailer. Is it good for a game? Turns out no, apparently not.
I don't know. I don't think Battlefield 4. I don't mind. 4, the 2. I feel somewhat. Obviously, I think we all like 2 and 3, probably. Maybe 2 and 3. I really like the single player in it, but I'm a bit of a outlier in that. I feel like Battlefield 4. I liked 1 or 2 of the levels. I liked the Levolution concept, and 1 or 2 levels were interesting in it. But I hear what you're saying, and then I do feel like Battlefield 1 had a lot of heart in it. That was one that seemed more design sort of focused. But anyway, sorry. I wanted to stand up for Levolution for a second.
No, Levolution is an easy punching bag because it's a dumb fucking word. And it's a funny sort of like core feature that is like, to me, the inverse version of Levolution that achieves the same thing is Battlefield Bad Company, where there's modular destructibility on walls and stuff, and that's really cool and interesting because by the end of a battle, the Battlefield looks different every time you play a map. I mean, there's certain trends obviously, but like it is different than having this sort of like semi-scripted event that can be triggered at some point. And I think that like Battlefield to me has always been, like I said earlier, it's like the sandbox response to Call of Duty. Whereas Call of Duty is this experience that is very like it's not linear, but is very sort of like on rails. There are like there's like the 3 routes you can go. It's fast, it's frenetic, and then it's over as soon as it starts. And I feel like Battlefield is more about like letting you go out there and play with your toys a little bit, and it's a little bit looser and stuff. And so I think like that sandboxiness, that modularity, and that sort of like giving players enough rope to hang themselves with to have like a great experience, or to kind of just like wander around in the hills lost or whatever. I think like it's not sexy marketing material to be like, you can just like go prone in the hills and snipe for 45 minutes. But like, I think that's what Battlefield is about, is like having the freedom to play weird and, not like, it's not the spectacle, it's the weird moment to moment player expression.
Yeah. I've been thinking about the destructibility stuff a little bit recently too, where like I really like the destructibility in the finals is like insane.
Yes.
And like really powerful and gameplay changing. And then the sort of the bit of tension with the finals that I have is that it's so high pressure, it feels like, in comparison to a Battlefield game where you can kind of just be a bad soldier in Battlefield and it's fine. You know what I mean? You're not going to lose for your team or whatever. And I was thinking about this recently where like Bad Company had that sweet spot of you had all that destructibility, but it wasn't like there were buildings everywhere. Whereas the finals is almost like there's so much destructibility. It's I think it works from a gameplay perspective really well because you have these. It's so useful. Like you get to get into areas and protect and defend areas in really interesting ways. But it's when you destroy things in games so everyone else sees it or so it has an impact on the way the level is going to be approached or something. I was thinking about like what would happen if you had like destructibility in Dust 2 or something, like the sort of how zoned in people are on sight lines and little things like in a smaller area or with a different type of shooting. Would that be more novel or interesting, like sort of, Frozen Synapse style, like being able to produce new sight lines? I guess the game that does that now that I think about it is the Ubisoft Rainbow Six Siege.
I was thinking about that when you were explaining it.
Yeah. So I guess I've just invented a game that already exists. There you go.
One more thing that I think is interesting from the interview that I did yesterday that I can't talk about yet. I have to drop a quote from an unannounced interview that is so relevant to this that I think part of the fun of Battlefield is that the social bonds that I made with people playing Battlefield felt like they were deeper because of that like sort of lower simmering intensity, where there are moments where Battlefield gets very intense, but there are also like long stretches of sort of like, all right, we're going to run all the way around the map and it's going to take 25 minutes and then we'll strike. And I think that the quote from this interview was basically that like when you're playing something like Call of Duty that's more fast and frenetic, you may make bonds with people, but the space in which those bonds develop is sort of outside of the game, whereas the game is like you don't make friends during a soccer game because you're like you're not like in the middle of a soccer game going like, hey, you see the game last night? Like it's too intense, it's too frenetic.
Yeah, it's in the locker room afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. So Battlefield is like, it's unsexy marketing material, but it's about those slow moments and that weird sort of player expression that happens outside of the sexy trailer fodder.
Yeah, best slow moments at the Game Awards 2026. Another game entering some type of early access is Wreckfest 2. March 20th, they've announced it, but that's more of a traditional Steam-style early access. I am looking forward to that. I really liked Wreckfest. Wreckfest. Of course, the original Wreckfest was itself in a form of early access with the fantastic title. Don't you guys remember the original name for Wreckfest? Drum roll, please. No, it was called Next Car Game.
Next car game?
Because they did not have a name for their game yet. Bugbear, I believe, is the studio. They made I want to say Flat Out was the name of the original series. Yeah. Frank's nodding. Next Car Game, which then turned into Wreckfest. It was Next Car Game for a while, though.
I like Next Car Game. That's a good title.
It's a great title.
They
and it kind of worked.
They should make a Wreckfest game that's called Wreckfest, the most important meal of the day. Or the most important... If it was about stealing cars, it could be Wreckfest, the most important steal of the day.
Oh, Wreckfest.
But then you're building a game around a pun title, and that's
Wake up. It's Wreckfest.
Yep.
What else we got?
I think we've basically mined this node.
In NASCAR, drinking the milk in IndyCar, right? Isn't that?
I don't know this reference.
Is that a thing people do when they're driving in NASCAR?
Yeah, no. Which races? There's a race you win in IndyCar where you drink milk after it. It sounds. Yeah.
Sounds like a dream you had.
Yeah, what?
It does. You're right. But that could work. You could, milk falls on you at the end, like Portal style sort of.
Was that whatever Ricky Bobby did? Was that the one that he was? Yeah. The real
Probably,
NASCAR?
Yeah. Real NASCAR. He was that was beautiful NASCAR. Yeah. Shake and bake, baby. It's good stuff. Making out with Sacha Baron Cohen at the end of that. How many of Sacha Baron Cohen movies end with him making out with people in male-dominated sports? Do you remember in Borat where they like have sex in the fucking MMA ring? Basically, they had like a trap door in the MMA ring so they could get out of there. It was fucking wild. That's weird. He's a weird guy.
It's Borat. It's the whole movie.
All right, let's talk about some video games.
Bruno.
I've talked too much, so let's keep Kingdom Come till later. How about Jesse? Tell us a little bit about Keep Driving.
Yeah.
And nobody explodes.
You mean Speed? No. So yeah.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah.
Keep Driving is a game.
I played this. We did this on Nextfest.
Yeah, this was part of Nextfest in October last year that we covered on Noclip Crew.
Nice.
And it's basically, to describe it, it's like a 2D side scroll, a 2D drive scroller,
Nice.
where you are on a journey. You're on a sort of coming of age adventure for this young adult. It's like the early 2000s. And you are playing like a roguelike sort of setup. It's like a bit of an RPG style game where your car is like your airship and you are your single custom character. You have a couple of options, like you can pick your relationship with your parents, which is funny. Your occupation, I just kept picking unemployed because I feel like that makes the most sense. And then what you want to start with, so like different items and stuff. And your goal, at least initially, is to go to a festival. It's on the other side of this map, and your direction as a player is to pick the way that you get there, the route that you take on this like map of wherever. You pick a country, you pick a place. You don't literally, but like you could just make up one in your mind and it makes sense.
Yeah, it seems like it's vaguely like
it could be Europe. It could
it's
not
definitely
be
Germany or
it's
it's Central Europe. It looks like to me. I would say.
Yeah, it feels like that. It's got the big rolling hills in the
Sweden
background. That's another part of it too, is like when you're making your selection on where you want to go, it's not like Slay the Spire where you pick the next location and you just warp there. The core of the gameplay is the driving, but not in a literal sense. You don't control the car. You pick like, I'm going to drive to Dusseldorf, and you're just like, the path is followed by the car. And along the way, you run into these, I forget what the word they use exactly is, but like basically like obstacles. Some of them are funny. Most of them are funny. Like one of them is just cow. As you approach them, whatever the threat is, the name scrolls across the screen. So you'll be on a casual drive listening to some really good music. The music in the game is fantastic, and you can pick your playlist and everything. You'll be listening to like some hard rock, and all you'll see is like birds that won't get out of the way scroll. And then you have to do this sort of combat gameplay that's not too dissimilar to something like well, the combat's a little different, but the setup is a bit like FTL, where you have like crew members and different abilities and stuff. But you have this like bar at the bottom of the screen with these different things you need to get rid of. So like this blue one will do damage to your car's health, and then this one will deal damage to the gas. And your abilities all have resources like energy, or you can use the condition of your car to do abilities, or gas, or money, or whatever. So there's lots of different options there for the combat. And the hitchhikers, this is the sort of other party members you can have, are the core of building out your opportunities and your abilities. So like you can find, I got a singer or like a musician, and his ability is he'll switch one of the target things, like the thing that's going to damage your body of your car, your gas or whatever. You could change that to have a music note above it. So if you pop it, the neighboring two abilities disappear. There's like these other little
it's hard to like
mechanics.
vocalize, isn't it?
It is. It's once
like
you see it, it's pretty straightforward.
Gamey, or it took me a little while to grok it as well.
Yeah.
Like I didn't understand it immediately. But it's sort of like resource management, right? Because you're on this like, different trip. I think one of the, whatever you call it, I forget what you called, like moments or whatever it is, was like getting overtaken by a truck or something. Yeah. And like having to like, weather, because your car's kind of a beater as well.
The initial one. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, nice.
Yeah. There's a couple other cars that are cool too. So the game overall, I feel like is a very cool aesthetic, just in general. Like the fact that they were able to take the simple mechanics of an RPG, rogueliteify, is that a word? It's not, it is now, the mechanics, and also put them in the aesthetic of driving, of like your gas is your mana, your body is your health. That's all really cool. Like that's a fun way to approach it. But I do have a very big complaint about this game, which it sucks. It sucks so bad because I was really, really enjoying it. And then I got to the end of the first run. When I did this in the demo, I assumed this was like when you reach the festival, which is like your first goal that you're given when you start playing the game. I figured, I hit it. It's the end of the demo. There's more game later. Because you could check the calendar and see, sort of like Persona, that you have these objectives you have to reach by a certain number of days. And in the game, you can drive between them and you have like a limited amount of time. And if you rest, you waste a bunch of time. So you're like doing time management to get to your objectives. But the calendar goes all the way to August. But the festival ends on like June 30th. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. And then I have 2 more months to screw around. It's that wanderlust, coming of age, do whatever you want sort of gameplay. But when I got to the festival, it was over. and I had to start the whole thing over. Like, I had to make a new character and rebuild my traits. And like the coolest part of the game, in my opinion, is it keeps track of things that you're repeating and gives you traits based on those repeated actions. So if you're constantly filling up your gas, you can get a trait that makes it so like gas is cheaper. Or that's just a random one. I don't want to spoil any of the cool ones. But there's like things that could happen based on repeated actions. That's really cool. But I don't think that's the case. Maybe it was. I didn't see in the menu or anything. If it is, that's cool too. But narratively, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you're like going back home and restarting the time, but you have the traits of the repeated adventure. I just feel like if you're doing a coming of age adventure story for your setup for your game or anything, why would you take that away from me for the experience? I mean, I haven't gone on a road trip before, so I can't say whether
is it too much of a stretch to imagine that the game that said go to the festival would end when you got to the festival?
Well, yeah, a little bit, I feel like, because it's a game about, like, you're finally free. You have a car to do whatever you want. You visit a festival and your summer's over. You've got 2 more months. It's only June 30th on the calendar. It's June 30th on the little date thing on the screen. Like, I don't think it's unreasonable to assume that when you reach your objective, the story would end. But it just feels like that kind of game where all the actions that you're taking are like a buildup of your character over time. The narrative of your character has been built, and then
it sounds.
lose it.
I wonder if the design problem here is that you didn't get the signal that you're not meant to bum rush it to the festival, that like the festival's going to be the end, like it would be at the end of any game, right? Like Fallout. The reason why I didn't complete Fallout New Vegas for years is because I knew that once I did the final mission that the game would end. Like that's how most games end, roguelikes especially. So I wonder, like, presumably then you missed out on what was supposed to be the wanderlust of the game, which is that you're not meant to go directly. You're supposed to get lost off the track a bit more.
Well, I didn't rush it. I went and did random things. Like I picked up hitchhikers and they had objectives they wanted to go finish. And I did those things. I felt like I wasted a ton of time. And then I got to the festival when I was done doing all the side objectives and I was like, oh, it's over, but I still have all this extra time. Shouldn't I have other
I would have
things to
assumed.
do?
I only played the demo, but I assumed the game ended when you got to the festival. Like that was the
guess
whole raison d'etre of the road trip.
But it's, I suppose so. But they give you other ending objectives, other things that can end the game, not just the festival. So, like, you can end the game
on the way,
by,
though, right?
No, not on the way. Like, there are other things you can go do that will be the conclusions. Like, when you finish it the first time and you finish the festival, you get this different version of the main menu that pulls out and shows you this book with, like, the festival being one of the completed options, and then there's a bunch of other ones around it that are blank, so you don't know what they are yet. I've gotten a couple where I'm like, oh, if I went and did this, it would have ended the game also, I assume, just because the objectives have the same color and same sort of, like, finalization, I guess, which is, again, is something I didn't realize. I thought maybe they were just, like, main story beats that would give you something cool, but no, like it's just you're sent back to the beginning of summer.
Do you get any holdovers?
Sorry?
Do you get any holdovers, like gameplay wise, or like is there any like
your equipment stays?
Yeah.
So if you upgrade a vehicle, like if you can buy upgrades like make your engine faster or whatever, that'll stick in your next run, which I also thought was strange because time goes back, whatever. And you can also unlock different vehicles. So like the first time I finished, I also got the truck, which was cool. It was nice to have more storage space. So
Six. So a cautionary tale: do not bum. Or well, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not saying you bum rushed it, but if you are playing a game, don't.
Just know it's going to end when you reach a thing. I wasn't like beat up because I didn't get to do other stuff. I was just sort of like, I feel like if your summer ended when you did one cool thing, and this was like your last summer, that would suck so bad. But anyway.
Killer. What's it called again?
Keep Driving. Check it out on Steam and other platforms.
Keep Driving.
Actually, is it just Steam still? That might be.
Is it? Is it out yet? Because you had already code.
We were sent codes. I think it's out on the 6th.
Okay. I saw that too. So that would be out by the time this one gets out. Terrific. Nice one. Thanks for the heads up. I forgot about this game because there are a million games.
Too many.
And I think I have a wish list that I assume I do. Jeremy, another game that came out recently and has been making notions, making moves, making people happy, is FlyKnight. Please explain what this thing is because it looks very cool.
Yes, FlyKnight this game is blowing the fuck up. It came out 5 days ago as of time of recording, and it has, let's see, 1,700 reviews on Steam, which is unprecedented for a small first-person dungeon crawler, slow, like trudging dungeon crawler in the vein of like Kingsfield, basically. This is a very
Right.
FromSoft inspired old school dungeon crawler with the sort of the aesthetic of old school RuneScape. This is
Overwhelmingly positive as well.
overwhelmingly positive, yeah. 97% positive of 1700. This is I love this game. I think it's so cool. In fact, I'm going to speak about my experience with it, but I have not completed the game because I stopped midway through and was like, I need to play this with somebody else because this is a game that has co-op as well, which I think is probably
Nice.
a big part of the reason that it's
Two-player?
fire. I think it's 2 to 4 actually.
Oh,
2 to
geez.
4. Which I think 2 would be is the sweet spot I would imagine, but I can imagine 4 people running around this dungeon being chaotic fun. So FlyKnight, it basically is a Kingsfield game. It drops you in and you move extremely slow. It's a lot about stamina management and kind of these. I was actually surprised. You kill sort of the first few enemies and then you get to another bug night basically. And I thought
You set up the fact that you are a bug here.
you are a bug. Oh yeah, my character I named it Bilbo Buggins. I was pretty proud of
Nice.
that. And so you get to your fight against your first sort of other bug knight, and I was surprised sort of how like prolonged the fight is. It's very sort of like, you know, you would imagine a fight between 2 medieval knights wouldn't just be one decisive blow and it's over. They're kind of like poking at each other, and it feels more like that. There's a limb based damage system, which is really, really cool. So you'll walk up to like a bug knight who has like 4 arms holding a bunch of swords, and you can whack off his arms. You can whack him off, and his arms will fall off. And there's also your movement direction impacts the direction of your swing on certain weapons. So like I got a long sword and chopped this guy's arm off, and I was like, oh, interesting. So because
Whacked him off with your longsword.
I whacked him off with my extremely long sword. And because you're coming right to left,
You're coming right to left.
God damn it! I took off his arm on that side, and I was like, do I need other weapons to do positional based damage to the other side? But your movement direction actually impacts the swing direction on certain weapons. So there's sort of this strategic like wearing down of enemies where you can hack all their limbs off, take their legs off, to go straight for the head and chop their head off in a very satisfying sort of head pops off and rolls onto the ground.
Monty Python style, just chopping
yes.
their. And I guess they're bugs. So do they ever have more than 2 legs or 2 arms or?
They definitely have more than 2 arms. I've only seen.
Isn't that a rule with bugs? Don't they have to have like 6 or something like that?
Yeah, right.
4 arms.
A lot of these have 2. I've seen in the pictures.
Yeah, I've
Fake
not
bugs.
seen more than 2 legs so far.
Okay.
But again, I'm pretty early. But I definitely have seen a 4-arm guy holding a bunch of daggers and stuff. So anyway, yeah, this game is it's fun. I gather it's very short, which is kind of why I stopped midway, because I didn't want to blow through the whole thing immediately on my own.
It's only $6 too.
It's $6. Play it with your friends. It's got a fishing mini game as well. Clearly, this was a game that was made with like hanging out with your buddies in mind.
Right.
I think it's got a real sort of nice sense of place. The music is very sort of like authentic. You know, when you hear like music from old Kingsfield game and you're like, this is the worst and best song I've ever heard in my life. Like it sounds so old and like it was made on a synthesizer that runs on coal, but like in the best way possible. That's kind of, I love the music of this game. So yeah, it's really cool atmosphere, fun gameplay, amazing aesthetic, and I'm excited to play with some friends.
Yeah, first-person RuneScape looks awesome. This is like, I love the weird gradient shading, like you're playing on a browser on like the worst computer you've ever seen in the last 20 years. Very cool style. There's a lot of these multiplayer co-op kind of games that are just, popping off like this, getting thousands of really positive reviews. Like, what was it, Web Fishing? Is another one that's it's not as like gameplay heavy as this one, but there's another like furry multiplayer game that really popped
Atlas.
off recently. Yeah,
ATLYSS I think is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a
That
bunch
game
of
is cool.
these.
That game
really cool.
is that if you can see past or if you're enticed by / can see past the veneer of big titty squirrel characters and all that, Atlas is actually pretty interesting too. Yeah, I think people are hungry for I mean, we talk about this all the time on the podcast. Games are like a social space for a lot of people. You come home from your job, and instead of going to the coffee shop with friends, you hop on a game together. And I think people are just hungry for weird little co-op experiences to have with their friends.
The frame rate as well of the animations is incredible. Just
Yeah.
watching these
RuneScape, baby.
videos.
Yeah, it's got this kind of what's it called, uninterpolated or whatever, where it's like it's not smoothly transitioning between frames of the animation. It's like clicking between them, so it's got this kind of trippy little. Yeah, what was the other game that did a bunch of that? I always forget the name, and I always say this. It's the platformer with the rabbit girl with the big ass.
Oh yeah,
Pseudo regalia.
Pseudo regalia.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Every time you give that description, I'm like, I know what it is.
You know why I always give it? Because everyone knows
it works.
exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, big ass money. Now I know.
Exactly. Yeah, it looks really slick. Man, that's cool. FlyKnight. All right, I'm going to check that one out. It's
very
available on Steam for, 10% off right now. $5.39 or $6 regular. By the time this podcast comes out, that offer will be over. So sorry for making you feel like you overspent on this game by 61 cents. All right, look, sword fighting game. Let's just do it. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 came out this morning. I have played a bit of it, a couple hours of it. It is mostly tutorial and video at the start of this game, so I'm not going to be able to tell you exactly how I feel about it. But initial impressions are incredibly positive. I tried to get into Kingdom Come Deliverance a couple of times, and I am a fan of, as a European, as a EU passport holder and a member of the EU. I myself, I am a fan of the Eastern European jank that often comes with these games. I have been celebrating my love of Stalker and Stalker 2 most recently, which is a game that doesn't like my widescreen monitor, I think. But I'll deal with it. I'll put the settings down so I can enjoy playing this game. Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 was a game that I felt never really wanted to run on any machine I had. It always seemed to have a bit of a, it was the first time I think the studio had made a game, Warhorse, I'm pretty sure. And it was a game that was trying to do a lot. It was a open world systemic game with a really, tricky combat system, with a lot of physics stuff going on, a lot of logic because it was open world. You go on side quests and all this sort of stuff. And the premise of it was great, though. You were just sort of like, I forget where you were, not a baker's son, but like something like that, like a blacksmith's son, I think, who's, going to get their chance to, try and get up in the world to become a knight. And during sort of like, I think it was 16th century Europe, I think, in Bavaria. So during like a bunch of, internal civil war, I think, eventually. But what civil war back then? I guess a bunch of fucking kings basically fighting over who owns the land and trade disputes and stuff like that. But you were playing this single character, a named character in a story. It's sort of like Skyrim if you had a single player, thing. And it was taking its historical accuracy, seriously, or at least trying to paint a version of history that felt true to the developers. Obviously, might get into it a little bit. There was a bit of a fracas with regards to that, and the vocal creative director, I think, on the project, which it sounds like now they're trying to sort of back out of a bit. I always hate when like a single person's stupid tweets get in the way of the work of lots of people. Yeah. That's what I felt happened with that first game. And I feel like, I tried to engage with that game on its own terms, and for whatever reason, it never got me. And I always, in the same way that like lots of games that I can sort of see are good, but I'm not in the right headspace, or, what's the one I've tried to get into 5 or 6 times? That's all about like your own royal family and
Crusader Kings.
Crusader Kings, exactly. Crusader Kings is another. Maybe it's just me in medieval games, man. I don't fucking know. The Crusader Kings tutorial happens literally in the part of the country I was born in, but that's another game where I'm like, but I eventually got into that game. It took me a while, but I got into it. And Kingdom Come, I think by the time I saw Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was coming, I was like, okay, I'll try it out when this one comes out. Right off the bat, the performance on this game is fucking really good. Like this runs better than Cyberpunk did at launch. Stalker 2 does at launch. I'm not just picking first person games from vaguely Eastern Europe here, but like just any big budget open world game that has some sort of RPG fashioning going on. I'm really surprised by how well this game runs. I think the performance and the camera work and the art style and the rendering is all super. The combat feels really fun. It feels easier. Maybe it's because like the one virtue of this game is that in the first game you're literally like it's a rags to slightly better rags kind of story, right? So you're not peasant, but you're son of a blacksmith. So you're not exactly high up in the fucking social strata, and you don't know anything about swinging swords. So you are learning the game as you go. In this one, you're playing the same character, but it's you have skills at the top of it. So it's not as much of a sort of a peasant sim as the first one was as a result of that. The start opening of the game is very much about just reintroducing you to the character, the time, the main quest. But then the game does open up. I believe there are 2 open world areas that it takes place in. Very pastoral, hillsides, villages, stuff like that. There are side quests to go on that are from the ones I've experienced so far, and I've been reading reviews on the game as well. Sound like they're very well written. Yeah, it's the combat I do feel is easier. So I said like there's you can legitimize it away with the story and that he's better, at combat. But also I feel like the swordplay and the especially the range stuff was particularly tricky. And it's still like in this one, like bolts, fall. Like it has simmy aspects to it, or sort of more simulated or systemic aspects to everything in this game, which I think is really cool. It seems like Witcher 1 to Witcher 2 kind of thing, or maybe it's more of a Witcher 2 to Witcher 3. Actually, it might be more fair in that this feels like the thing that we have said time and time again when we interview studios, which is institutional knowledge, the ability of teams to work well with each other, game after game after game. This seems like a marked improvement on the first game, at least from what I've experienced so far. It has been reviewing very well. I don't know what the Metacritic is. I saw a bunch of people gave it 9s and 10s and 5s and stuff like that. So it seems to be getting pretty well reviewed as well.
It looks interesting. So I know this is more of like a medieval sandbox. Do these games have like a sort of primary quest line that it lets you deviate
100%.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, 100%. Like more, I would say more like kind of in the Witcher more than Skyrim, more than Elder Scrolls. Like your character is voiced. You're doing a lot of there's a lot of speech checks and stuff in these games as well. You use a lot of there's various, persuasion techniques, basically, not quite Oblivion, fucking say 4 random things to people, but understanding your social class. Sadly not. But the main quest is like really, from what I've seen so far, and from having played the first one as well, they take their sort of Golden Path quest really seriously, and it has cinematic cameras and lots of voice actors and lots of cutscenes and interesting moments in it as well. But honestly, from what little I played of the first game and what I've been hearing about this one, and from my brief little sojourn with some of the stuff in the open world area, is that the single play or the side quests are very strong as well. So yeah, it just seems like it seems like they tightened it all up, and I'm really excited to play it. I've been hearing it's an easy 100 hours plus playthrough on this one. So have you guys played much of it at all, or any experience with the series at all?
No, I saw some trailers for this one that looked interesting, like exciting gameplay, and the story stuff seems really cool. Like I saw something about if you keep making mistakes in a city, eventually you can be branded as a thief or as a murderer or whatever.
Totally.
All those mechanics seem fun. That seems like a really cool idea for a video game. I do remember all of the nonsense the first time around with the arguments and like just like you said, the creative lead maybe being a little toxic for fun. I don't know. I mean,
he was a fucking Gamergate. He was sympathizing with Gamergate.
Yeah, Gamergate supporter. Yeah,
which is which they have subsequently. We're talking earlier about there's a PC Gamer article with, I think is it the PR manager for the game, saying they're fed up of being dragged into a culture war, and I'm like, I bet
don't put on the uniform, brother.
I bet they are 100. Yeah, I think I think the person in question being on Twitter for years has probably caused a lot of damage to the image of that studio. And I mean, the studio has since been bought. They sold it to Koch Media and before COVID, I think it was. So I also imagine with that comes a bit of a reckoning as well of, you gotta suit up a little bit and not be so crazy and yeah. The thing that irked me back in the day was that like it seemed like they were looking for. He was looking for a fight over this stuff and like really posting a lot of pro Gamergate stuff. And I said it weeks ago on this podcast. I think anyone who is pro Gamergate should be, you should wear that brand with pride if you're going to keep being
Speaking
that
of
way.
getting branded, yeah.
Right? It's like you fucking. There's the fuck around and then there's the find out. And I think that like you don't have to. Everyone's got a different perspective. I get it. And these people are from Czechia, and a lot of them grew up in. We talked about it a lot with the CD Projekt people. Imagine if we talk to the Stalker people. Like, I totally get it. If you grow up in communism and then you're seeing things in the Western world or liberal world that you're not used to, I imagine that it's different. But like, I feel like a lot of the criticism of that was earned. But I do feel sorry for everyone else who works on the game. Who wasn't out there, even if they have beliefs that I don't believe in. I don't need everyone to believe in what I'm saying, but I need them to be kind and courteous and not drum up hate in the world.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of things I think that probably wouldn't be very nice, but I don't spend all day on Twitter fucking shouting at people I don't like. You know what I mean? It's like,
not yet, man. You got time, all right?
Exactly, yeah. So I kind of hate that we're talking about it here, but like, you kind of can't say this game
it's part
without
of the
it
story.
fucking coming up because it's because it was so much of the first game's PR cycle, and it really poisoned it. And I think it was totally self inflicted on the part of people at the studio.
I also feel like there's a level on which if you make a medieval sandbox game and it's like mostly white people or whatever, and people are critical of that, it's like, you could just have a conversation. Like, it doesn't immediately. You don't need to capitulate
100%.
and be like, they're trying to like oppress me. And like, everyone in the game has to be black or they'll never be like, no one is making these insane demands. It's just a conversation.
This literal conversation with Josh Sawyer about Pentiment.
Yeah.
Because there's one guy in the Abbey who came from somewhere in North Africa who's there. And we talked to him about it. And he was like, well, like, there wasn't that many people of color in that part of the world at that time, but like it wasn't unheard of on like a Silk Road. And he's like,
they wouldn't see a person of color and be like, it's some sort of beast. Like they would know what fucking other people from other places
exactly.
are.
Yeah. But I am exactly, Jared. That's the thing. And I think early in that sort of like Gamergate era, there was this reflex on people who thought that you couldn't have that conversation.
Yeah.
And you could.
Yeah.
It's like
100%.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I'm like, you don't need to we don't need to force, I think that's the term that often comes up is the idea of forced diversity or whatever like that. But you can just like talk about the fucking world you're making and not immediately start giving out about Anita Sarkeesian because your fucking game, because somebody
like you dug
pointed
the
out.
hole and you're mad that you're in the hole. Brother,
Exactly.
don't take the shovel out next time. Like
I feel like the reasons that conversation don't happen are there are sort of like two primary examples. Are one that people interpreted as like I'm being compelled to do this thing that's like forced diversity, which is the example we're talking about. Or the other example is was it Final Fantasy 16 had sort of a lack of diversity, 15, 16, and then there was
16,
yeah, and then there was kind of like not really a conversation around it for a different reason, which is that I think that Square Enix are very PR minded. And I think that like as a big corporation, it's a little harder to have like a conversation where it's like, oh, interesting. Let's like talk about the history, or also it's like a fictional
Capcom
place.
with Resi 5 as well. I think there might be a cultural reason there as well, a little bit.
Yeah.
Just in terms of representation in Japanese. I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but it's something that's come up with a number of high profile games out of Japan as well. And in the past, at least, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think, people are scared of it maybe. And then sometimes they get too defensive maybe when they're, and we all say stupid shit on Twitter, but like when if anyone is like a leader of a bigger group of people, you have to appreciate that you are unfortunately also speaking for those people, even if you would not like to be. So yeah, I think it's an unfortunate weight that is carried with this that is now happening again. But like you said, it's like it was such a big stinker in that first game that you can't avoid it. And I think, I don't know, I maybe it's good to hear the global PR person saying they're fed up of being dragged through a culture war. If I was working at a studio, I'd be fucking fed up of it as well. And I think the best way to do that is to make sure that the people who work for the studio aren't out there saying stupid shit.
Yeah.
That is going to be laughable years later. You know what I mean? And look worse years later and more myopic and naive and silly and stupid. You know what I mean? Like it's just not worth it. So I think it's really cool that the studio has put this game out, and it's great to see a game of this quality coming out of that part of the world as well. Like anywhere where you see that, there's these new hubs, like Warsaw, like just turned into like there's so many games coming out of Warsaw now, and we see it all over the place. I think it's really cool to see this, like we were saying about DICE as well earlier, talking about that, like all the games that come out of Stockholm and Uppsala, bunches of other places around the world. It's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm really excited to play more of it. I think it looks really cool, and I'm excited to experience more of the world. There is something as well about, I feel like in particular, there's something about medieval Europe at this time that you have to be, it's kind of fun to go back to it. I think one of the things I really like world building about this game is that oftentimes when I read about medieval time, I often think about the cities in terms of the scale of cities today. And like a lot of like big cities like London exist and stuff like that, right? Going back pretty far. But what I really liked about whenever I'd learn about history as a kid would be like the amount of people who were like protecting a castle. It was like not that many people. You know what I mean?
It's like 25 dudes.
Yeah. Right? With swords.
Me and the boys.
Exactly. And the fights in this feel like that. Like it's like, oh, there's a bandits coming up, but it's not like Watch Dogs where you have to fucking shoot 50 people to get into the, you know what I mean? Imagine like, oh, I need to get in and hack that terminal. So I better murder 38 people on the way there. Like, could you imagine the mass killing that and it would just make no sense. Whereas when you have like a bandit party comes for you in this one and it's like 3 or 4 people, or like you're defending a castle and it's a huge big siege that's happening and it's still like
a soccer team,
150 people maybe. Yeah. And and the battlements have like 3 guys on it, right? And one of our archers got killed and you're like, shit, that's like
20% of the
archers. I think there's aspects of the historical accuracy in this game which are very, it's kind of like Pentiment, where I go, I trust this game. I trust that this is what it was like, and I'm going to read about this later because now I'm fascinated. And Pentiment, I really felt that way. That like, I was like, wow, is that really how shit went down? Like they had all that control, like the church stayed or didn't, or this is the way you have a business. Like you could have a bar, you could own a pub that was on a traveling road in this part of the world, and have
that
super
was enough.
Seasonal work. And exactly. Yeah.
The good old days, man. Why can't we bring that back?
Yes, exactly. The good old days where we all died.
Everyone died of dysentery.
20s.
There was no bathrooms. No, food was not abundant. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Great for me, too. It would have been great.
Oh, yeah.
I would have definitely owned a bar.
You wouldn't have been in Kingdom Come Deliverance 1. But you would have been in the second one.
No, I'd be in the second one because
Exactly.
they're woke now. It's woke.
Yeah.
Is that happening? Are people saying
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh,
That's
really?
part
they're
of
getting
the
they're getting it
article.
from both sides?
Yeah, so like the guy,
fuck.
whoever who's been drumming up shit back in the day, is now getting it back because it's like, wow, you could be gay in this game. Wow, it's woke now. It's
like, the leopards.
They're eating my face. Get away! No, it's not supposed to be me. You're supposed to be eating the other guys.
It's wild.
Yeah,
wild times out there.
I one more thought on what you were saying about historical accuracy or like relative historical accuracy. I feel like we talked about this with Pentiment a little bit, that like games that strive for historical accuracy aren't necessarily educational games, but I think that they have educational value in the way that they stimulate interest in doing further research on your own and like stimulate curiosity. And I was just thinking, it's like I grew up in New England, and I had so many field trips as a kid where we'd go to like Sturbridge Village or like Old Plymouth Plantation, and there's like people in costume costumes, and they're like, I'm the blacksmith, and you're like, whoa,
Right.
and they're like in character.
Cool.
I
That's
feel
cool.
like there's a cool element of games like this that is like it's like a Sturbridge Village if you could just like kill everyone there.
I really enjoyed talking to Josh. So I'd be fascinated to talk to this studio about this stuff as well, because I really enjoyed listening to Josh Sawyer about it, because he strikes me as a sort of a academic kind of, historical guy. But he was talking about how, and this is in our Pentiment doc, like also not telling the truth is part of the mix. Like you can't, like if you strive towards some sort of Puritan idea of history, first of all, what are you basing your history on?
Exactly.
Like
History is fucking made up. It's written by the victor. There's a whole quote about it, man.
100%. And there are parts of the world that are better preserved than others for sure, and then aspects of those that are better preserved. Like he was talking about, or one of the people we were talking about was saying like there was this, or maybe Jeremy, we talked about this. There was like, obviously, a lot about like the royal houses, and we understand lots about like architecture from that period of time. And some clothes, but a lot of clothes break down, so you don't necessarily know that. But like, there was I think it was in the 18th century or something, there was this new sort of version of historical, like sort of history taking at that period that was about the common person. That was about like, what was it like to be a silk worker at this time of, in this place? Or what was it like to be a sheep farmer? Or what was it like to be, whatever, right? And that, so the history that we have might underplay certain things and overextend the importance of other things just based on how much history we got out of it, So it's very interesting, all that stuff. I used to find history so boring. I think when you get old, you get more interested in history.
Well, because you're history.
Because you were there.
Yeah. History.
Yeah, no, I feel the same exact way. I in high school there was like AP classes, which was sort of, you get college credit for doing them in high school. So there were like college level courses in high school, and I got into AP history, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then maybe like 2-3 weeks into it, I was like, I fucking hate this, and I'm terrible. Well, no,
really?
It's not humble brag at all, because in the class, people were like, all right, let's go around as like a little experiment, and everyone say a president, the first president, and then you say the second, then you say the third, and people were just like, yeah, George Washington, and they're like, oh yeah, Abraham Lincoln, and they got to me, and I was like, I don't fucking, like, who knows the 11th president? I don't fucking know.
Taft.
And it made Taft, of course. How could I forget? But it made me realize that like not only did I not sort of like grok history, I just didn't care or find it interesting,
right.
And like the challenges about learning history didn't appeal to me at all. And now as an adult, I'll just like read the entire Wikipedia for like the Reconstruction era for no reason. Yeah, it's weird. It's like I feel like it's sort of just like a learning style thing where it's the reason that video games getting people interested in it is important.
Yeah.
Because you have to like. To learn optimally, you have to follow your curiosity. And so like the only reason I find computer science incredibly boring in the abstract, but when I wanted to learn game dev years ago, I was like, well, I'll need to like learn a programming language. And then you follow, like it's like put one thing after the other. You're like, oh, well, I want to know how to make something move on the screen. Let me learn that. And it's like this micro unit that I have curiosity for that specific thing. So yeah, I feel like history was uninteresting to me until I was like, well, I want to know why that is that way.
Right.
And then, yeah, you follow that thread.
That's a good example of maybe why I'm excited to play 100 hours of Kingdom Come Deliverance II, and I was excited to play through Pentiment twice, I think. But I'm not picking up any history books. I'm reading one history book at the moment, so that's maybe
some Howard Zinn up in you.
Yeah, it's called. Actually, I don't want to get the title wrong. Because,
I gotta know what this is.
Yeah, I think it's. I think that the title is How the Irish Turned White, and it's basically about Irish immigrants in America when they first came, and sort of So it's pretty great.
That's interesting.
I'll do the review when I'm done.
Please.
At the end of that. Let's talk about fucking ninjas, man. Let's just do it.
Speaking
Let's
of
talk
historical
about ninjas.
accuracy,
Well,
yeah.
there's
Exactly.
history there because you do go to Ellis Island in Ninja Gaiden 2 Black.
What? Hold on. Ninja
What?
Gaiden 2 Black, and you go to Ellis Island.
The
Nice.
third level, you fight a demon. You fight a demon on the top of the Statue of Liberty. So
Holy shit.
What?
What?
All right.
Has
Yeah,
anyone made
Ninja
that?
Gaiden-
I did not fuck around with Ninja Gaiden 2, apparently.
Yeah.
So, like 2 weeks ago, this is when I was in Japan, so this is why I'm just getting into it now. But Xbox had like their developer direct, and they showcased some games. They showed off Ninja Gaiden 4, which is in development. It will be launched
Yes.
on Game Pass. Which the cool thing is, Platinum Games is working with Team Ninja. So I'm like,
That's so cool. Like, what a collab.
Yeah.
That's gonna be brilliant.
Whoever's
So-
left though of Platinum Games.
yeah, right.
Fair.
But they did. They're like, but wait, there's one more thing. Ninja Gaiden 2 Black is out today on Steam and Game Pass. So I came back. There was a few games that came out. Sniper Elite, Resistance, like the new
Yeah.
Sniper Elite.
It's not gotten well reviewed. I was gonna pick it up.
Oh, really?
and then-
I started playing it and I was like, yeah, I did this already. Like I like Sniper Elite, the recent one, but I started playing and I was like, okay, so it didn't really stick for me. I'll
shot
try
a
to-
Nazi's balls off. And we're like,
Yeah,
it doesn't hit as hard as it used to.
But then, so I downloaded Ninja Gaiden 2 and I started playing it, and it was so funny for like, I don't know, I played it like 4 hours, and I was like, I can't remember if I played this before or not. So I had to like check my Xbox 360 achievements. So for context, Ninja Gaiden, the original was like on Xbox, and then they did like Ninja Gaiden Black, the definitive edition. Then Ninja Gaiden 2 came out on 360. Ninja Gaiden 3 came out on like Wii U, and nobody liked it. And then
Oh, you're right. God, I
Yeah.
totally forgot about that.
and then they did like
Wow.
they did like Ninja Gaiden Sigma, Ninja Gaiden 2 Sigma, like these like the PS3 generation remasters. So I played Ninja Gaiden Sigma. I beat that, but I could not remember if I played Ninja Gaiden 2. I played it once, like June 2008 when it first came out. So I think I gameflied it, whatever. So this is truly my first time playing Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. It's fantastic. I also don't know if they've like nerfed the difficulty, because the thing I've always heard is like Ninja Gaiden's so hard, only the top gamers and like I have friends
Donkey,
like that.
is that you?
No, it's just like I have friends who will who will do that. I don't play games like that, but so when you start, there's like whatever the easy mode is, like medium, master ninja mode, whatever. I'm just playing on medium, and it's not hard. Like boss battles maybe will take 1 or 2 tries. You can use items and stuff, so it's possible. So it's not too difficult on medium. So I'm having a great time. It's just a very badass hack and slash. You're hacking limbs off and doing insane finishing moves. It's like pretty linear. So it's like, where the path is the entire time. There's all these like little routes you can go to get collectibles or things like that. So I'm having such a good time with it. And then, it's a Team Ninja game. The same studio does like Dead or Alive. So it's like the cutscenes and stuff are so ridiculous that it's like this. It's really over the top in a great way. So I did not expect to be playing this, and so now I really really like it. So it's it's fantastic. And you always play as like Ryu Hayabasa, but then there's a few chapters who will play as like the other Dead or Alive girls. So I think you switch between like 3 other girls at some point throughout the story. And it's fantastic. And I'd never played this before. In my head, I thought I played this forever ago. But
Look, there has been so many, and and Ninja Gaiden 3 did come out on 360 and PS3, but it was a Dragon Sword, I think it's called, was the one that came out on Wii U.
Oh yeah.
Or Razor's Edge. That's what it was called. It's Razor's Edge. But I don't blame you, because the naming convention on the series is just completely bonkers. And it's come out, there's like 1,000,001 different ones of these.
Yeah. Even 3 years ago, they put out like Ninja Gaiden Trilogy. So they've already like remastered this game 100 times. And so that's why I'm like, I think I played them all. I don't know. But so now Ninja Gaiden 2 Black is the definitive. But they had to rebuild the game in Unreal Engine. So I've seen people say like, no, it doesn't play the same, so there is some dissenting opinion. Look, as a casual Ninja Gaiden fan, this game's awesome. I'm having a great time. But the caveat is apparently they lost like all the Xbox source code. So there's some nitpicky Steam reviews of people being like, doesn't control 100% the original. And then because it is kind of like a remake, like it does have a little bit like old camera jank. Like I'm constantly having to like reorient the camera. I don't know if there's lock on, but I'm having a good time with it. And it does look very, very pretty.
Yeah.
I'm playing on Series X. It looks gorgeous. So
I
really
wonder...
like it.
I wonder if 4 is using Unreal, and this was like a sort of a test bed thing. Let's do like one of the levels or something in this and see how it feels. That's cool. Nice. Do you know how long it is?
I don't know. I feel like I already have like 300 plus like achievement points in it. So I feel like I will say it's very generous with, if you just want to play something for gamer score, it's very generous with achievements. I don't know how long it is, but I feel like it's like it can't be that long. I don't know. I feel like I'm like 5 hours in. I might be at least, I don't know, maybe halfway through. I'm kind of making good progress.
That feels right for an Ninja Gaiden. Like they don't.
And that's the thing too, is the game is like you beat it once, you unlock the super difficulty, and then you try to do that. But I'm just playing it once and done. I don't care that much.
How's your Dynasty Warriors time coming?
Oh, so I did pop it back in. I kind of got overwhelmed because there's so much stuff to grind and stuff, and I was like, wait, let me try something else. So I picked up Ninja Gaiden, but yeah, I did pop back Dynasty Warriors, and it's like, yeah, those games, if you really want to go all out, are like month-long grinds. So, but I did have fun playing another level. I had to try to remember the like controls again because it's more than just pressing square this time.
Right.
Big year for swords, eh? We got this coming out.
Exactly,
we got Ninja Gaiden 4. We got Ghost of Yote, maybe.
The
Assassin's Creed Shadows. I'm sure there's something else, probably Dynasty Warriors. Big year to Slash.
Japan and Chinese based fucking sword skewering. And I guess Kingdom Come if you want to just go full sword. It's just
good point.
Yeah, it's all happening. What's also happening is Steam Idler Fest. Anyone?
The hell's that?
Jesse, put some crickets in after he says that.
You got it. Don't worry.
Idle games you kind of play a little bit, or you just kind of leave them running in the background, or something like that. I just found it hilarious that they were doing a Idle Games festival on Steam, and so I decided to check out what's going on in the world of idle games. So I got some new ones. And I also revisited some old favorites. I'm going to just do a little camera thing here so you guys can see the camera. You can see what I've been looking at here. Oh, wait, that's pointing.
That's you.
Pointing at your face.
Yeah.
What's been going on my screen down here?
Are you idling this whole time?
Oh, what are you playing? My Little Life?
What am I clicking on?
Cookies?
Oh, yes, sir.
Oh.
Yes. Yes,
God.
sir. I've been cookie clicking this whole fucking podcast.
Multitasking.
Oh, man.
I'm up to fucking 7.3 million a second. I got 35 billion cookies in the pot here. I don't have an alchemy lab, but I got cursors, grandmas, farms, mines, factories, banks, temple.
Stop talking about this
wizard
game.
towers,
All right? No.
and 2 shipments. Come on, it's good.
No, I had
First
I
taste is
skipped
free.
a whole day of
First
school
taste
to
is
play
free.
this game that you don't have to
School?
play. Yeah, I
Making
know.
me
What a
feel
loser.
old.
Yeah,
Jesus.
sorry,
No,
but still.
Yeah. I was working at GameSpot. We had it was my first year at GameSpot UK, and we had a dedicated cookie clicker machine set up with a monitor that was above so everyone could check in on it, which then became the Salty Bet screen after that. Some real early aughts shout outs there. So I've been enjoying Cookie Clicker because it is the best. Another one I've been enjoying is a game called The Longing.
Yes.
Which is, I fucking knew you'd know this.
I just know of it.
Yeah, I was like, so it's an idle game, which I believe still runs when the game isn't open.
Yeah.
Where you are a small, I think, piece of soot or something that's been turned into a human by sort of an eldritch old god that lives under the earth. And the old god has almost run out of energy. So he makes you, squeezes you together and says, I will wake again in 400 years. Don't leave the cave. And you basically are just wandering the halls alone, wasting time. You can do things to make the 400 years go is it 400 years or days?
Days.
It might be days, sorry. 400 days go faster. Like you can read books and it'll make it go. You can click like idle book, and then he'll just sit in the corner, this guy reading the book in like this weird cave, and the time will go down. You can tell him just to go wander, and sometimes when you load into the game, he'll just be like in some random part of the dungeon somewhere, like wandering. It's really sad. Like you can tell like how lonely this creature is getting. And I haven't gotten to it yet, but I'm guessing there is a like tempting you can leave maybe thing that might happen or something like that. But it's such an interesting like concept that I'm gonna keep playing that. It's a game that it's funny. Like most games, I feel bad when I don't play them. Like you're punished for not playing them because you forgot where you were, or like you don't know what you're doing, or I feel guilt when I go back to games that I haven't played in a while. Whereas this one doesn't feel like that. It feels like, oh no, I wonder what's going on, because like the game keeps running, or you know they pretend that the simulation has been running the whole time. So have you played it, Jesse, at all?
No, there was an old video 4 years ago, which on the internet is a million years, by Adam Millard, I think, about the game. That's how I was first introduced to it, and it was really interesting. I was like, I can't believe someone made a game like this that just lasts forever, like on purpose.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And so I think that's the reason I wanted to look at the Idler Fest, because I was like, what can you possibly do with this past cookie clicker? Like, what's the thing?
Have you noticed anything interesting?
Yeah, that one for sure. There's a cat one where you mind a bunch of cats in a cat cafe that's called Chonkers, which I was very much drawn to as well. There's another game I played a bit of, but I haven't really grokked it quite yet. It's called 64. It's gorgeous looking. A lot of these games, I feel like it's a lot of the look of them is part of it. And then there's some that are like don't feel as idly. Like Micro Civilization was one that got brought up to me a bunch. There's a couple of these city builder ones where you're they almost feel Dwarf Fortressy a little bit, where like you're not really telling people what to build or do, but you're nudging it a bit. So yeah, I was just sort of more than anything taken aback by just how many different versions of this.
Would you say you had a bit of an idle curiosity?
Oh, very good. Very good.
I wanted to mention one thing about this because I'm on the page now and I'm just looking at the games, and I remember, I didn't realize rather that there's this trend now of these like floating idle games. I played one recently called Rusty's Retirement, which is an idle game that's just on the bottom of your like screen or on the side of your screen. I have two monitors, so I have it on my left one, and it just sits there like and you interact with it, and like it just does its own thing. It plays music and sound effects, and you can.
Is it in a window?
No, it's not in a window with like a close button or anything. It's just like a floating. Like if you saw this 10 years ago, you'd assume you had a really, really complex virus on your computer. Like that's what it looks like. Yes, exactly. Yeah,
it sounds like cats or dogs.
Yeah,
or like
the sort of thing that you'd be pissed off if you had before. Now it's just this is what they're like. Like the one that I played, Rusty's Retirement, is like that. But there's another one I mentioned it as a joke, but I realized that it is that same thing. My Little Life. It's a little apartment building on your desktop just hanging out, or you can float it on top of everything else and just have it.
I love that.
Yeah, that's so cool.
That's what I like about these games, is if they're like little in the corners, like Cookie Clicker here, just sitting here, or I had the other one on over the weekends, just like sitting up in the corner. I think that's neat, especially because our screens have gotten so big and resolution's gotten so big. Like there's so much real estate on these screens now.
Yeah. I mean, you might as well mine some Bitcoin on my computer while I'm doing other stuff anyway, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Screw it.
I played a bit of Fallout 76 as well on my Xbox One. I was getting back into that, but I'm gonna leave that till next week because I've only played like 5 or 6 hours back in it, so I'm gonna cover the games that we played a bit more of. LOK Digital, which is not Legacy of Kain Digital. I've been told by Jesse. What is LOK and why are we so excited about this new non-analog version?
LOK Digital is it's a new. I've been playing it on my mobile cellular device. It's quite fun.
Wow.
It's like I don't know. I try to play mobile games every once in a while. I get into this little like kick where I'm like, let's see what's going on the iOS store. And then I browse it for 5 minutes and I'm like, this is awful. I don't know what we're doing to ourselves. Like, this is such a cool platform for video games. You could do so many interesting things. And we're just like, what if we put console games on this? I don't want to do that. I'm waiting for the bus. I have 5 minutes. You think I'm playing
Resident Evil?
There's
a couple of Ninja Gaiden games on there as well.
Yeah. No thanks. Yeah. I'm not interested. I want something that takes 35 seconds at most, and then I want to move on. That's why Marvel Snap worked. It was 2 minutes for a match. Right. You did it. It was over. You finished using the toilet and you went back to whatever you were doing. LOK or LOK Digital, as it's actually stated, is it's a puzzle game where you're like combining letters to activate abilities. So like LOK lets you blank out a space on this grid of letters. It's like fairly straightforward once you play the tutorial, but it ramps up in difficulty over time. You unlock more abilities with more stages. It's like $8. I only want to mention it just because it's like, I'm just thinking about mobile games all the time. I'm constantly like, what's going on in this space? Yeah. Why are we not doing more interesting stuff? Like, what happened to making games like Fruit Ninja that were so compelling? Because now it's so dominated by gacha. Like, it's
wild. I think there is a massive discoverability problem on the iOS in particular. I will say the one saving grace, it didn't solve it entirely, but it was worth the subscription alone to solve this problem, was the Apple Arcade stuff.
Yeah.
Because at least I feel like a lot of people who were making interesting games were the ones who initially got that money. Because remember at the start, it was a lot of like Apple funded stuff that was going on there, or it was, in getting people to go back into that space. So, but that's not perfect either, right? Because then all you're doing is going for the ones that Apple have done the deals on, and like, sure, they're good, but there's probably ones that aren't, don't have those deals that are as good that you can't find because they don't have fucking stupid cartoon moose on the fucking thumbnail.
Or they don't have an IP that Apple's willing to dump $1 million into or something. Like, oh, Hello Kitty Island Adventure. That's a cute thing. They made the Butters video game from South Park. Finally, it's real. But like,
wait, there's a Butters video game?
No, the Hello Kitty Island Adventure is the one that Butters makes a joke about. And they finally made it real. He's not kidding anymore in the World of Warcraft episode.
Beautiful
yeah,
Butters.
like I feel like you're totally right. That having subscriptions, having something where a human or humans, hopefully, are curating what's available is probably the only viable solution right now. Like these stores are so locked down, they're not going to make human curated lists. Like they're not going to add Steam curators to the iOS store. That's just not going to happen. Maybe they will, but I don't see a version of that because like people are going to get them to sell games. Yeah, exactly.
And it would just be full of bots.
Yeah, like it is now. We're going to have DEI list. Oh no, gosh, Genshin Impact doesn't have. Shut up. Whatever. Who cares? Like.
Wait, Genshin Impact's on a DEI list?
No, I'm sure you could probably spin anything to be on one of those lists. Let's be honest for a second. None of those are real.
You know what else is on a DEI list is Ninja Gaiden 2 Black.
Well, it is 2 Black.
It's 2 Black, yeah.
It needs to be less black.
Oh,
and then
wow,
maybe it won't
there
be
we
on the
go,
list.
yeah.
2 Black, 2
Is
Furious.
it okay? I feel like an idiot. Should I be calling it Gaiden?
It's Ga.
Yeah, see, that's the problem.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm doing that because I'm forcing it.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm doing the pretending to speak Japanese because I don't know the words. But I say
to be fair,
Gaiden. Gaiden is the way I always say
Frank,
it.
it's Gaiden, right? Like
Is it
I don't
Gaijin.
think it'd be Gaiden. Yeah, Ninja Gaiden. I
Gaiden,
like
Gaijin.
Watashi wa Ninja Gaijin.
Gaijin?
yeah.
Isn't that the word you say to somebody
like
who's not from
foreigner.
Japan?
Yeah,
foreigner. Yeah.
So that, like
Yeah,
there'd be a
yeah.
lot of interactions where like if I mess up or I'm slow, I'll just Watashi wa Baka Gaijin. Like I'm a dumb
nice.
foreigner.
'Cause you
like,
can
when
They're
be
like, stop bullying yourself.
Yeah.
But that self-deprecating humor
Exactly,
gets you
yeah.
pretty
They don't put
far,
up with that shit.
100%.
They'll jail you.
Yeah, there's times though where it does not read, and they're like, "Why are you so cruel to yourself?"
Exactly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Because there's Gaikokujin, I think, is like person from a foreign country. I wonder if Gaijin is just a compressed version of that. That's
Oh,
seen
right, yeah.
as, like more casual / rude.
I like it.
Yeah.
I say Gaiden like Aiden, but I should say Gaiden like Aiden.
Like riding. I don't know.
Gaiden,
Raiden.
like Joe Biden.
Oh,
Joe
no.
Gaiden.
Great. Now I'll
Sleepy
remember.
guy.
Ninja Biden.
Rest in peace. Is he still alive?
He's still alive. He just signed to a talent agency too. He's
Dead to me.
He's starting his
Sunsetting.
He's dead to me.
Is he going to be a Netflix documentary producer like the Obamas were?
Yeah, he signed up to be part of something, right? So like not SAG, but some like he gets to be in Netflix
creative.
stuff
I
now.
hope it's voice acting.
Was it CCA, Frank, or CAA or whatever?
Yeah, CAA, I think.
Yeah.
Creative
I saw
Arts.
someone say he was reverse Reaganing, where Reagan was an actor and then became the president.
Genius.
Christ.
Just like Obama.
Yeah.
Oh my lord. What are we talking about? Oh, sorry, LOK. Yeah, but yeah,
it's really
I hear
good.
what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I do. Yeah, that's the thing. You'd be, I'm sure there's people out there fighting a good fight. Sure, there's like a podcast or
Yeah.
a small website that
There was Touch Arcade for a while that I used to read.
Right.
Like there's lots of outlets doing the work to show it and curate it, but even the one opportunity or two opportunities we get a year to have a big highlight of mobile games will be like best mobile game at the Game Awards, and it's like 4 IP things and a new thing you've never heard of before, and then like that wins, or basically it's whatever MiHoYo put out that year will win the award.
Yeah, and I do wonder if Steam Deck and Switch have also eaten into this a little bit, because like the times where I want to play mobile games are like a lot of like, oh, I'm on an airplane or a train, or because when I'm on my the problem is now I'll just go to like
Twitter,
the news, or Blue Sky, or fucking Instagram. You know what I mean? Like that's the 2-minute thing that I do now.
There was it makes so much sense now, but it's like the most concentrated like place of mobile marketing I ever saw was in the Tokyo subway, because in the subway,
Right.
everyone's playing mobile games, and all the ads you see, and it was for a lot of Hoyo games or however you say it, but it was like, yeah, I was curious, and it's like most people are just playing some mobile game, and I'm like, oh my God, I get it. Now I know why there's so many mobile games there.
Dude, I was stunned when I went to Fan Expo, the fake thing in Canada that we do that's not Comic-Con.
PAX?
Comic-Con, yeah.
Oh, Comic-Con.
And there was like a line around the building almost for Genshin Impact. I was like, there's no way.
Oh, really?
There's no way. And then I found out later on that it was like the biggest game ever made, and everyone loves it so much they want to stand next to cardboard cutouts of the characters. But just wild how popular that series is. It's on everything, so it makes sense, but still.
It's wild. Yeah, that is strange. Cool. Well, thanks for bringing it. It looks really cool. The art style looks great as well.
Yeah,
Actually.
it's very fun. It's
Black
very
and white,
smart. It has inspired me to like fiddle with puzzle games again. I'm like, man, I'm going to put something on these phones. We need more games.
Jesse loves a puzzle game. We know
does.
that.
He's a puzzle
We
guy.
know that. Puzzle Fest will be fun this year. So that's all the games we talked about. Just to give you guys a heads up again, just so you remember them. There was Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, FlyKnight, Keep Driving, LOK Digital, Ninja Gaiden 2, Black, and Cookie Clicker. And I just got a golden cookie. I got 27 golden cookies. And they gave me a little upgrade for it. So I'm on the way, folks. Only another 35 billion to get that alchemy lab. Sorry, Mother Earth. Emails, Frank. What we got?
Yeah, we have some emails this week. And if you want to write to us, send us an email to podcast@noclip.video. Or if you're on the Patreon and our Discord, we have podcast chat channel. You can send questions in there. We have 2 emails. One is from Nez. They wrote in and said, "Hey, Noclip, I caught up with a buddy of mine over the weekend. He's been playing Elden Ring and just recently completed the DLC. I asked him how he'd found it, and he went on to explain that right up until the final boss fight, he was unaware that there was a sprint move. He'd essentially been jogging everywhere, using specific attacks to get over certain obstacles, and just generally making his life a misery. When the news came that he'd overlooked a key move for all some 250 hours, he was crushed. Have any of you ever beaten a game without being aware of a core move spell feature?"
That's awful.
Wow.
That's nuts.
It's like walking around with weighted ankle bracelets for your entire life, and then
Even on
realizing
the
you could have done
horse?
this.
Like,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh my
Got Trident or
God.
whatever, and you're just going so slow.
That's
Wild.
hilarious. I
What's
can't think of anything that egregious.
That's wild.
That takes the cake.
Yeah.
Chelsea played Super Mario RPG and got like, I can't remember how far, to Booster's Tower without knowing there was a sprint. And then when you get to Booster's Tower, there's a isometric platforming puzzle you need to sprint for. And she texted me and was like, I
funny.
cannot figure out this. Like, it seems so simple. I don't understand. And I was like, oh, you just like sprint and run. And she just texted me back like ... But that's like a few hours. That's not like 200 plus hours.
Brutal.
And
I think
Indiana. Sorry, go on.
Oh, okay. We're both too polite. I just Metaphor Fantasio. I have played the Persona games, some of them anyway, and those ones are more about picking out your character or you're picking out your persona and having that come with you and that sort of thing. You can kind of switch them a little bit. But in this one, you have party members that have specific archetypes that you can assign beforehand. I didn't realize until 80 hours in my 100-something hour-long playthrough that you could swap party members. I was so mad.
Oh, right.
I was so mad. I was like this whole time I was playing on hard mode for no reason. It sucked.
I know in the recent Indiana Jones game, I forgot about the whip.
What?
And so I never used it in like combat or like there's all these things you can do with it, like knock guns out of people's hands and all this
So
stuff.
you were only using it like contextually.
Exactly, whenever there was like a prompt for something.
Wow.
And I think you can use it to like stealth get people and their ankles and do. I didn't see any of this shit because I didn't even watch like the reviews or anything. And then I remember watching someone else's review of it after I'd completed and being like, oh, all this shit I could have done.
It's so
Like,
funny
that would've-
because that's like not knowing that Mario can jump.
Yes,
That's his iconic weapon.
Yeah.
It's what he fucking does. Is
Dude,
he
why
has
does
a
this
hat
guy not
and a
have a whip I can regularly use, dude? Oh,
Yeah,
this
I
guy
don't
sucks.
understand, man.
Yeah, it was really silly.
That's
I felt dumb. I mean, this is like fucking last month we're talking about. And I was like, oh shit. Like there was all these parts, especially like stealthy bits and stuff. I was like, oh, I could have used it there. I was like replaying stuff in my head going, oh, that would have been fun. Like, hey, look, it goes to show it's a game that I enjoy despite never interacting with one of its key combat features. I guess it's a pretty good sign. Did you guys play much of indie more over the break or anything? Anyone complete
No,
it?
I want to. I'm playing something else at the moment that I want to finish, which has been really fun, but I want to go back to indie because it's totally my shit. I understand why you didn't use the whip, to be fair, because it is loud. Like, it's
Maybe
a
that's
loud
why.
It just make
crack
the
noise.
craziest sound. If
It
you're trying to
does. It's
stealth,
ridiculous.
it's like the most
It makes no sense. Like,
anti-stealth
why
thing.
would I use the whip to distract the enemy? Use the whip. It sounds like I'm shooting a rifle. What do you mean?
Yeah, it's like use the firecrackers if you want to sneak by.
Yeah,
someone.
like what do you mean? Look for the
It'll
guy with
make
the
that
rope on
one
his
guy
head.
look at the firecracker, but also everyone else will be like, "What the fuck?" Was that?"
Everyone in a 30-mile radius is going to hear that shit. Like, what do you mean? You're in the Vatican. It's loud as hell.
I think that's why I didn't. Is because the first time I did it, I was just like, Jesus Christ, it's
Yeah.
louder than the gun. Yeah, which I guess a whip might be. I don't know. Yeah, that's great. Frank, can you think of any?
Yeah, I mean, I think I said this before, but I played Yakuza 3, And it wasn't until the last boss I couldn't beat it, and then I was streaming it, and some of the chat's like, "Why aren't you locking on?"
Oh my god, I did the same fucking thing. I did the same thing for all of Kiwami until the last boss.
Oh
yeah,
no!
and I was like, oh, because like the game, it's like if you're pressing square, you'll just fight in that direction. So I'm just always like, yeah, I'll just keep going this way. And then the last boss, you specifically need to dodge stuff, and like just locking on was like, oh, it was so easy. And I was like, oh my god, the entire And then I started playing Yakuza 4, and like hours went by, and the same thing is like, oh yeah, I can lock on. So I don't know.
It's funny how like I hate tutorials where it's like jump, crouch, do the fucking thing. I'm like, I've never played a video game before, but like this came up actually when we were doing the secret tape stuff with Valve for Half-Life 1 and 2, where like the training, they call it, where you're basically like teaching the player, and it came up in the Black Mesa documentary that Jeremy and myself put together, where they talked about like the Valvean design philosophy, right? Kind of doing it 3 times to kind of show you. It just goes to show that like if you don't teach somebody something and it's something they're using a lot and you didn't get something across, you'll probably never like get them again, because why would you change the way you're doing it? You've sort of decided this is how I do it now, and now I'm going to play 800 hours not sprinting in this massive open world fucking game.
Yeah, you need to necessitate it and also make the information convenient, but not in a way that it's thrust upon the player. Because when I fire up a game from 2003 and it's like press W to walk forward, I'm like, all right, I'm fucking so checked out. Like, I like don't fucking patronize me. But then you play a game, like I had my mom play the first few hours of Disco Elysium, and she was like, how do I like use an item? I'm like, oh, well, you open your inventory. And I was like, oh my god, she's like, she never played like Diablo, she never played Baldur's Gate, like she never played Planescape, it's like,
what's an inventory?
But if you told most people who play Disco Elysium how to open the inventory, they'd be like, is this a game for idiots? Like, because most people have played one CRPG, or
just
at least
tap I or whatever.
I or tab,
that works.
Yeah, totally. Or like Chelsea has mostly played like console games throughout most of her life and gotten more into PC gaming the last several years. And there are things about like first-person shooters that are second nature to her on a controller, but then she'll be like, what's the typical hotkey for like interact or something? And I was like, oh, it's always E or F. But yeah, it's just things that you like. Having a button prompt for it every time you see it is kind of annoying.
It is funny designing games like that. When you make something specifically for players who already know the language of video games, it's like you're alienating a whole new like maybe it's easy enough to figure some of that stuff out and sort of ingrain it quickly. But I mean, my buddy Rasputin, I almost doxed him. No real name reveal, I promise.
No one would know his username though if you said his real name.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Does this series called Gaming for a Non-Gamer, which is a little whatever. And it's his wife playing video games. And it's so interesting watching her not know stuff that feels so innate, not even like button presses, but like the red barrel explodes, or to be shy about doing a jump over a platform because like you'll fall and die at that height if you thought about it, but you don't because it's a video game. Like so many things like that we just take for granted and go, that's annoying. But there's a whole new, how many people have only played Fortnite? That's their gaming, and they go to play like a Metroidvania and they're like, what do you mean I have to go backward? I already went there. Like,
right, yeah. It's wild, isn't it? The lexicon, and then everyone's coming at it. Everyone's learning it from different perspectives too. So you're kind of, you never know where they're coming from. Yeah, that's crazy. Great email, Nez. Hope your buddy, I don't know, maybe that's a cool way to chill out in the world of the Soulsborne games. Those, weirdly enough, are one of the genres that historically didn't handhold, but they did a little bit in Elden Ring. Like they had, I guess Demon Souls had the tutorial, but Elden Ring had that little, hey, you wanna learn how to play this game? Jump down this fucking pit and we'll give you the quick little 101. And it did more of that stuff. Like it had those little pause screens that would come up and tell you stuff.
Yeah, the older Souls games had like the little sort of like pylons you would walk over and it would tutorialize. But I feel like in the original Dark Souls, I remember there being a lot of things that were never tutorialized. Like it would be, this press R1 to attack, but then it wouldn't really elaborate on some of the finer details of some of those systems.
Did the original Demon Souls have that tutorial at the start, or did they add that in the Blue Point one? I can't remember.
It's been
I think we
long
covered
since
that in the doc
original
as well, and I still can't remember. I think maybe they did add some of that tutorial stuff.
I know Dark Souls had some of that stuff, but I don't remember Demon Souls.
I think maybe they might have, because that first, or maybe they had what you were talking about before. Like
I remember that boss is in like in that tutorial zone. It ends with this giant boss thing, and that thing is in the PS3 version also. I think.
That area is in the game,
Okay, yeah.
but it's whether or not, because you still fight that boss at the end of the in the original version on PS3 as well.
They
but
do
it's
have
whether or not
the-
the tooltips and all that.
They do
stuff.
have the messages on the ground that look like the player messages, and you press
Okay.
them and it says R1 standard attack. This is Demon Souls playthrough on the original
I
version.
think they added some of the tooltips then, though, because I think there are some full screen takeovers of, oh, just so you know, this is how fucking mana works or some shit.
Gotcha.
On top of the, fucking, the little ghost, little footsteps or whatever.
Fake other player messages.
Yeah, what a weird.
Can you imagine if
concept
other
that is. Could you
players had to
imagine?
do the tutorial? Like if those were actual
They
player
fuck off.
messages?
Sometimes they do. They're like, don't walk here or fucking.
Yeah, illusory
Imagine
wall.
being a new player. Imagine being your mom playing that game for the first time. She's like, what the fuck are these messages that say like fucking
George R.R. Martin wrote all of the messages in Elden
Exactly.
Ring, by the way. That's the work
Yeah.
that he did on the game.
worry awaits?
Finger, butthole.
Oh, they're going to love that one.
They're gonna get a crack out of this one.
One more email, Frank?
Yeah, James wrote in and asked, they said, I just spotted YouTube playables for the first time last week, touting their no need to download anything message.
Oh, yeah.
Seems we've come full circle to the era of browser-based Flash games. It got me thinking about how much I love these old-school web-based titles from that text-based Mafia RPG and Neopets through Habba Hotel, RuneScape, Newgrounds, and even Blaseball. There's something that remains as appealing to me now as it did about then being able to jump into a game with nothing more than a browser. What were your favorite web-based games?
Habbo Hotel, baby. Shout out to all my bobas.
yeah.
And also RuneScape, big RuneScape fan. Played that at the library because I was too poor to have a computer. And it was a blast. Social browser games were like huge for a while there. They were causing, I remember actually the reason I started playing Habbo Hotel was because my cousin's friend was telling me that his son had racked up $300 in charges on her credit card playing this game. And I was like, wow, it must be great. And then I went home. Luckily, I never did that, but that's what got me into it. And I don't know, I spent hours playing these ridiculous role-playing games where I pretended to be a police officer. The one time I would ever do that ever on purpose.
You were a cop in Habbo Hotel.
I was. And I had a
Wow.
daughter, and she was super nice. I bet she was a 40-year-old man who wanted
Oh,
my
man,
credits,
that's
but
fucking. Huh.
I cared so much.
That's questionable.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Pico's games? Pico's School? Shit.
Pico School is exactly what I was gonna say. Holy shit! Can I read the description of Pico School before you explain it?
Please do.
Okay, this is.
I think I made Pico School for my second year college assignment as well, which was not a good idea.
If anyone doesn't know what Pico School is, this is a game
Holy shit.
on Newgrounds by Tom Fulp. This is the description. Goth kids. Tom Fulp made it.
He made it. Wow.
I'll have to double check that. That's what it says.
cool.
Goth kids have shot up your school, and it's up to Pico to save the day. And then it says, "I made this game in 1999 before I grew out of my edgy teen phase."
Oh my God, yeah. The Wikipedia page is inspired by the Columbine High School massacre. What the hell?
Yeah,
man?
it is Tom Fulp. Yeah, this game was like
That's wild.
I mean, it was a lot of Newgrounds stuff was kind of like, like a DIY sort of South Park kind of thing where the point was that it was so transgressive. I mean, that's Edmund McMillan comes out of that tradition with dead baby
Totally.
dress up, and you know, it's like it's fucking ridiculous because that's the point.
Holy shit. Yeah. I'm trying to remember other ones that were, God, there was so many. Don't Shit Your Pants. Classic one. That was made by the Rogue Legacy guys.
Yeah.
That came up in our Rogue Legacy doc.
classic.
I could not believe it when that came up. Meat Boy, of course. Like there's a lot of ones like that, right? Like Spelunky and Meat Boy were old Flash games. I'm trying to think of, there was also like, before the Flash stuff as well, you would just get like little EXEs, like Drug Wars was one, like just little games that ran, executables you'd run on your machine. Yeah, Drug Wars was great. I'm trying to think what else. God.
What's that old sand game you'd play where you could like drop different little...
Oh yeah,
grains
where it
of,
had like the little cellular automata kind of thing.
Yes.
It's for people who don't know what he's talking about. Imagine
what is this?
Imagine if Noida had none of the platformer elements and was just you dropping sand and fire and all these interacting elements.
Oh, okay.
I think it's isn't it called Falling Sand?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
First known
With
popular
lava,
example
water,
is Falling
napalm,
Sand
and more.
Japanese Dofi blog in 2005.
So the YouTube playables thing is just like a different kind of a wrapper for some of those, I guess.
It's like
You
you could play really bad versions of like bowling and stuff, like Facebook games on YouTube.
Yeah.
I guess if you want to do that, sure, whatever. It's
a lot
cool.
of these look a bit too Facebooky. I'm kind of with you on that. There was one I used to play before. I forget what it was called. It wasn't Castle Panic. It was like Castle something, but it was basically what Angry Birds was doing. It was like you were not a trebuchet. You were something like a trebuchet or something, and you were aiming at like a physics-based castle with some people in it, and if the things fell over and killed the people, you won. And so it was just like a physics thing. That was pretty cool.
Do you guys remember Madness?
Yes, I was trying to think of the name when you guys were talking about this Tom Fulp school shooter game.
Google
and Madness was
Newgrounds.
classic.
Just madness.
Madness, like the word madness. It's the little, it's sort of like grayscale, little like very simple figurines. They have sort of like a plus sign for a face.
Oh yes, totally.
And it's just like getting guns. It was the era when the Matrix was still relatively new, so it was a lot of like guns. I need lots of like like console commanding in RPGs and AK-47s.
I remember
Were these videos or games?
No, they were games.
There were, I think there were also videos, but
There
I
were shorts
remember the
people
games.
had made because it was Flash.
Yeah.
You could do whatever you wanted, but
Because
I
there
remember
was
them
also
as games.
the stick figure ones. There was as well. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, stick
Bunch
figure
of
fight ones. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that turned into a game as well, but I think they started out as
I had a buddy in elementary school who had like multiple of those that he had made that had millions of views. Like
Really?
he was big shit. He felt so cool, and I'm like, whatever, man.
Is that a screen name? Big Shit.
His name was Big Shit. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah, great little games.
I got one more. You remember? Was it Dad and Me? It was I think it was a Dan Paladin
Shower
game.
with your dad simulator.
No, not that one. Dad and Me. It's the big blue guy with the chainsaw.
Yes. It's the Alien Hominid developers, right, or artist? It looks similar.
Yeah. I think it's
Castle
Dan
Crashers.
Paladin.
Oh yeah, Castle Crashers of course was one as well.
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
all. That was from Newgrounds too.
Yeah, Dan Paladin and Tom Fulp.
okay.
Yeah, Dad and Me, a classic.
Dad and Me, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
good old
fun.
days, man. Newgrounds, what a time.
They're still doing I saw Tom do a tweet a couple of days ago about they're doing a new little game jam thing
Oh, cool.
on there. So it's still clicking along. I think they all converted right off Flash onto something else once Flash was kicked off of most of the OSs. So I think everything runs. I think it just runs in some sort of wrapper. I think they figured it out. I could be wrong. Maybe we lost fucking decades of video game design history and animation design history, but it's crazy how many people we've even interviewed over the years who have come from that world. You know, makes sense. It's a big portal for creativity. Thanks for the email, James. Very cool. Shout out to Habbo Hotel. That's a podcast, folks. Hades Blu-ray still available over at supergiant.games/developing-hell, or if you just go over to Fangamer and type in Developing Hell or Hades or fucking whatever you want. Type in that video that Noclip made about it. Decent chance it'll pop up there. And you can grab yourself a copy like I've got here. I've got several copies here. Look, I've got like 12 copies of it right here.
Wow.
Just fucking cup flowed over.
And those beauties.
You should put one in every game console you own and watch it multiple times at the same time.
Wow, that'd be great. And not just freak out at all the errors I forgot to edit over and over and over again. We're working away. I was away last week. Thanks for holding down the fort, gents. I was back up in beautiful Polesba, Kitsap County, up in the Olympic Peninsula. How many ways can I say this without saying the state? Washington, talking to the Dwarf Fortress folks about Dwarf Fortress. And a lot of stuff's happened since we last talked to them. Some good, some bad. It's been an interesting project, this whole thing, putting it together. They were celebrating the launch of Adventure Mode, which they finally got to a sort of parity with the pre-Steam version of Dwarf Fortresses, the ASCII version's Adventure Mode. So that's all the menus and graphics and stuff like that. And now they're probably entering the most exciting phase of Dwarf Fortress development in a while, which is not them just getting the Steam version and all the graphics done. You know, it's them making new shit again, working on like crazy new ideas for that game. So the documentary series is going to be a 4-parter, each about 30 minutes long, 25 to 30 minutes long. We're going to be releasing them for patrons first. I'm going to be doing them once a week, and we're going to have, because I'm going to be putting them out while I'm still editing the final ones, kind of thing. So when the first one goes up, the second one will be available on early access for patrons, and when the second one goes up, the third one will already be early access, and you'll get access to the first one first. So, and we're gonna test that out, and it seems to be the way a lot of creators are working these days. And I think with the way we approach these multi-part series, and we have a couple of them because we have this one, and we have the Disco Elysium doc, and we have the Cyberpunk doc, and a lot of these are big editing projects that are going to be multi-part series, and it seems like a cool way to get those out. And then we'll have bonus bits like extended interviews, more developer commentaries, things like that. We'll see if there's any other things we can do, like maybe do little let's plays with some of us in the crew talking about those games, or community days or whatever. But yeah, it'll be fun to get the first of those out, our 4-part series on Dwarf Fortress, and it's very much targeted at kind of everyone. It's like, I want this to be targeted at fans of Dwarf Fortress who know this story, who know a lot of it, and I want to see the story told and also get some insight that they probably don't know about. I also want this to be for people who will never play Dwarf Fortress. As Tarn himself has said many times, he said the players of Dwarf Fortress are the people who read about Dwarf Fortress, and then there's a subset of the players which are the people who actually own the game and run the game. And then deeper still, you've got like adventure mode people and people doing mods and all that sort of stuff. So I want it to be like an interesting, not just like what's special about this game, but also the story of the history of it, and kind of prime people. Like, my whole thing is I want people by the end of the 4 videos to actually be able to like watch Dwarf Fortress streams or play Dwarf Fortress and kind of know what the fuck is going on to a certain extent, to have like an appreciation for what this thing is, because it's a very strange video game. It's not like a lot of video games. Yeah, and then we're working away on a bunch of other projects. Jeremy's working on an exciting project to be announced. We just finished editing one, which is, I think, still to be announced. Our patrons know about that one, but yeah. And then another one you're working on, you did an interview yesterday for.
Yeah, without saying anything specific about it, it was one of my favorite conversations I've ever had about video games in my life. So I'm very excited about it.
Hell yeah, beautiful. Love to see it. I'm excited to hear more. Sorry, I got a golden cookie. I got to click. I got 5.6 million.
Sometimes
cookies.
I can catch it. Sometimes I can see he's like, no, he's cookie moding. He's not. He's getting 45%.
I was intentionally doing some just like clicking and not caring earlier. So now you're going to be able to go back. It's like you know, the Matrix or something. You'll be able to go back and go on this on your second listening of this podcast. Go, oh, that motherfucker.
It's like rewatching The Sixth Sense, and now you have context for all of these moments.
Exactly. Except I'm upgrading my grandmas. I gotta get the fucking. I gotta get those. Have you ever played Cookie Clicker, Jeremy?
A little bit. I had to capture footage for a project we did years ago.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
What was? I forgot.
I don't remember.
God, you're right. I do remember coming up in something a long time ago.
Yeah, years ago. I can't remember.
Right. Man, it's inside all of us. The cookie. All right, that's the podcast, folks. Thanks for supporting us over at patreon.com/noclip. We'll be back again. We've got plenty of games to talk about this month. They're coming in thick and fast. If you have any emails, shoot them in. And otherwise, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.